Chapter 1728. Tao Tao was shocked. By the time she came back to her senses, she was already holding his hand tightly. "What's wrong with you? Are you trying to trick me again?" Higashio Motetsu looked at her with a pale face and chuckled. "How is that possible? I really cherish my life now. Otherwise, how am I going to grow old with you?" She blushed and then turned pale. "How can you still laugh at a time like this?" She helped him to the bed and then quickly reached out to check his pulse. Looking at his appearance just now, he must have been poisoned. However, when she figured out what he had been poisoned with, she was completely stunned. "How did you enter the Devil's Valley just now?" After spitting out a mouthful of blood, he felt a little better. Hearing her trembling voice, he could not help but frown. Could it be that this poison was not easy to detoxify? He said, "Zimo got the map of the Devil's Valley. I followed the nearest route to enter." Tao Tao said instinctively, "So you entered the fog array first, then the garden, and finally the valley?" Higashio Motetsu thought carefully. That was indeed the case. "Is there a problem? I didn't expect there to be fog here. The terrain is indeed strange." "The fog is poisonous." Higashio Motetsu, Tao Tao said, "As long as you enter the fog array, the poison will enter your body when the fog comes into contact with your skin. This poison is called pervasive." Higashio Motetsu's expression turned ugly. Thinking of the pity in her eyes when she looked at him just now, he had a bad feeling. "What about the garden?" "The fragrance of the flowers is poisonous." Higashio Motetsu, what kind of strange place was this? There was poison everywhere. Seeing that he did not speak, Tao Tao explained, "Those flowers look beautiful, but the fragrance of the flowers is extremely poisonous. It's called beauty's fragrance." Higashio Motetsu's expression turned even uglier. He was still thinking that the owner of the Devil's Valley was quite poetic and had so many rare flowers. He did not expect them to be man-eating flowers. "What's wrong with the valley?" "The water is poisonous." Higashio Motetsu, "Did you touch any water when you came over? There seems to be water vapor when we pass by." This time, it was Tao Tao's turn to be silent. No wonder when she took his pulse just now, there was poison in his body. "So there's more than one poison in my body?" Even Higashio Motetsu, who was used to seeing great storms, couldn't keep the smile on his face any longer. "You should know that the Devil Valley is famous for its poison, yet you still dare to sneak in so brazenly. Now, do you understand why I told you not to get close to the Devil Valley?" Tao Tao looked at his dark face. She didn't know if it was because of her anger or because of the poison. As expected, this Devil's Valley is extremely perverted. It's not suitable for humans to live in. Higashio Motetsu snorted, then looked at her. "Is it difficult to solve? You also know that poisons that can be used to prevent outsiders from invading are not ordinary." Tao Tao didn't answer his question directly. Higashio Motetsu heard this and wasn't too surprised. Instead, he smiled and reached out to hold her hand in his palm. Tao Tao didn't want to be angry with the patient, so she could only let him hold her hand. "It doesn't matter if it can't be cured. Anyway, I'll be satisfied as long as I can spend my last moments with you." This sentence, he seemed to be joking, but as long as one looked into his serious and calm eyes, one would know that these words were from the bottom of his heart. Tao Tao felt uncomfortable being stared at by him, and her face was burning. She didn't dare to look into his eyes, so she found another topic to talk about. "Generally speaking, after being poisoned by the all-pervasive poison, one will die within a quarter of an hour. Because you took the 100 poison pill I gave you, plus the medicine you took in the past 3 years to nurse your body. Although these are not enough to cure the all-pervasive poison, they can delay the time of the poison's onset. However, you inhaled the beauty's fragrance and came into contact with the water. This is the first time someone was poisoned by these 3 poisons at the same time. These 3 poisons reinforce and counteract each other, so they didn't act up at the same time. If it wasn't because of emotional agitation, the poison wouldn't have acted up at the same time so quickly." What did he mean by emotional agitation? Higashio Motetsu understood. His eyes seemed to fall on her rosy lips, and he said meaningfully, "It can't be helped. With a sweetheart in my arms, it's inevitable that I lose control." She was so serious in her analysis, but she didn't expect him to be so indecent. She glared at him angrily. "You're really shameless?" Higashio Motetsu continued her words with an evil smile. She put her hand to his lips and kissed it, and said even more shamelessly, "I'm already half dead. It's fine if I die under a peony flower." Lewd. The back of her hand where he kissed felt numb and itchy. This feeling traveled through her skin and veins to her heart. She couldn't help but shake off his hand. She immediately stood up and said with a red face, "Shut up. From now on, don't talk to me." After saying that, she turned to leave and went to the medicine cabinet to get the medicine. Seeing her red ears before she ran away, Higashio Motetsu smiled triumphantly. Very quickly, Tao Tao found 3 different colored pills and handed them to him along with a cup of water. "Hurry up and take the medicine." Higashio Motetsu looked at the medicine in her hand and didn't move. "Take the medicine. This is the antidote." Tao Tao saw him looking at her silently and not taking the medicine. She was about to go crazy. She couldn't wait to open his mouth and stuff the medicine in. "Hey, say something." Just as she was about to explode in anger, he pointed at his mouth. She instantly deflated, feeling helpless and annoyed. "I told you not to talk, so don't talk. Why are you so obedient? I told you not to go near the Devil's Valley. Why didn't you listen? Why aren't you taking the medicine? Say something." Looking at the angry person, Higashio Motetsu smiled. "If you want to take the medicine, it's very simple. You just have to agree to go with me." Tao Tao was stunned, then narrowed her eyes. "This is your body. What does it have to do with me? It's up to you to take it or not." Higashio Motetsu smiled. He was just teasing her. But if she could agree, it couldn't be any better. He took the medicine from her hand and took it. His body immediately felt much better. Just now, he was resisting the pain of thousands of ants gnawing on his body and almost broke his cultivation. "Hey, why weren't you worried about the antidote at all?" Tao Tao thought about how he was lying there fearlessly and couldn't help but be curious. "Didn't I answer you just now? As long as I'm by your side, even if I die, I'll be happy." Tao Tao's mouth twitched. "Don't try to coax me with these words that you can fool a 3-year-old child. I want to hear the truth." Higashio Motetsu smiled. "As people of the Devil's Valley, you often come in and out. If there wasn't an antidote, this place would have long become a desolate valley." "So that was the case." Tao Tao nodded and asked again, "Then how do you know that I will definitely take out the antidote to save you?" Higashio Motetsu looked at her with a smile like a spring breeze. "Because you can't bear to part with me." Chapter 17:29. Because you can't bear to part with me. This sentence made Tao Tao's face instantly turn red. How could this person be so shameless as to say such things? It was simply a challenge to her heartbeat. "What nonsense are you spouting?" After glaring at him for a long time, she finally squeezed out these words from between her teeth. "You know very well whether or not someone is spouting nonsense." Higashio Motetsu laughed as he waved at her. "Come here." Tao Tao frowned warily. "What are you doing?" He curled his lips. "Afraid that I'll eat you up?" Tao Tao chuckled in her heart. "When you were taking advantage of me just now, you almost ate me up, didn't you?" But she didn't say out loud. At this moment, although his face had lost its color and was a little pale, it didn't affect that handsome face that angered both humans and gods. His phoenix eyes were slightly raised, and his eyes were sparkling as he laid there casually. Because he was poisoned, his appearance had a trace of illness. But it was this kind of demonic and weak yet seductive look that made her heart waver. In the end, she couldn't resist his gaze and walked over in a bad mood. Just as she walked in front of him, her wrist tightened and a force pulled her forward. She wasn't prepared and was pulled onto the bed by him. She wanted to get up the moment she touched the bed, but his movements were faster than hers. He pressed down on her shoulders and pulled her into his embrace. When the blanket covered her body, everything seemed to have been settled, and she still hadn't regained her senses. How did he suddenly pull her into his embrace? She didn't give up struggling, but she was completely unable to move. All right. This person who was supposed to be weak and sickly was like an octopus, using both his hands and legs to entangle her. "Let go of me." She couldn't break free and could only glare at him angrily. Actually, Her heart was in a mess at this moment. Her ears were filled with his breath, and her body was filled with his scent. It was as if she had been poisoned and her entire body was dizzy. He turned her body around, and the two of them faced each other. Their gazes instantly collided. He chuckled, his chest vibrating as he couldn't stop himself from laughing. She turned her gaze to the side. Even without looking, he knew that her face and neck were definitely red. What's so funny? How can you be so shameless? Let go of me, or I'll poison you when I can move. He blew on her neck, and as he wished, he saw a layer of pink covering her fair skin. He smiled triumphantly and said, I can't have a wife if I want my face, so I might as well not have one. Tao Tao rolled her eyes. She didn't know what words to use to describe him. All right, I won't tease you anymore. I haven't slept for a few days. Let me sleep for a while. Don't move around. He retracted his arm and pulled her into his embrace. He buried his face in her hair and sniffed the fragrance of her hair before closing his eyes in peace. Tao Tao felt that this person was like a puppy, sniffing everywhere and finally settling down in satisfaction, as if he had found a bone. She wanted to ask him why he didn't sleep well, but soon she heard his light breathing. She clenched her teeth and shut her mouth. No, why did she care so much about whether he slept well or not? What she should do at this time was to wake him up and disturb him. That would be the best revenge. But she didn't know why she couldn't do it when she saw the dark circles under his eyes. Forget it, forget it. Since her heart had softened a few times, 1 or 2 more times wouldn't make a difference. After a while, she felt that he had fallen asleep. She reached out her hand, wanting to carefully squeeze out of his embrace. However, the moment she moved, the person hugging her immediately tightened his arms and muttered, Don't move. Be good. The person who had just moved an inch away was once again tightly held in his embrace. Tao Tao wanted to cry, but had no tears. But that soft murmur and the action of patting her head made her lose her senses. She pursed her lips, but in the end, she couldn't bear to wake him up. She sighed softly and relaxed her body to lean on him. Actually, in order to prepare for the Valley Master competition tomorrow, she hadn't slept well. At this time, his embrace was warm and comfortable. His light breathing was like a lullaby. Her eyelids gradually became heavy and sleepy. She found a comfortable position in his embrace and closed her eyes. Not long after, she also fell asleep. The sunlight shone in through the window and poured down on the two of them. The faint halo was very gentle, and the two of them on the bed had their heads pressed against each other. Their posture was very intimate, and they looked very harmonious and warm. The sun slowly set in the west. When the sky was filled with the sunset glow, one of them moved. Her long, curly eyelashes trembled and slowly opened. What entered his eyes was the familiar sleeping face. It was incomparably peaceful. It was hard to imagine her being naughty and angry when she was awake. Higashio Motetsu chuckled. He raised his hand to tuck the hair that had fallen on her forehead to the back of her head. Then he propped up his chin and looked at her. How long had it been since he looked at her like this? Thinking about it, it seemed that he had never looked at her seriously. Thinking about it, he felt a little embarrassed. Every time he thought of something, he felt that he owed her a little more. Little witch, I owe you so much. I'll repay you with the rest of my life, okay? He said softly, but the sleeping person did not hear him. He smiled and kissed her forehead gently. He wanted to stop there, but when he touched her soft skin, he could not help but go down. It landed on her cheeks, the corner of her lips, and finally, he kissed her lips. Tao Tao was awakened by the suffocation. As soon as she opened her eyes, she saw that enlarged face that deserved a beating. Even if she used her fingers to think, she knew what this person had done while she was asleep. She was embarrassed and angry. You sneak attacked me. Higashio Motetsu touched her face and chuckled. If you're not happy that I sneak attacked you, then I'll do it openly. With that, he lifted her chin and lowered his head to kiss her. I didn't mean that. When they separated again, the sun moved another inch. Higashio Motetsu looked at the pair of watery eyes in front of him. His heart began to itch again, as if he was addicted. Tao Tao, I'll take you away. He really wanted to tie her to his side and never leave. These words were like a gust of wind, blowing away the charm on Tao Tao's body. I promised Master that I would not betray the Devil Valley. When your poison is cured, I'll send you out. She went from being addicted to being calm in the blink of an eye. This was not what he wanted to see. No, we have to go together. Otherwise, I won't go. He stubbornly hugged her, like a child who could not get candy. No matter what, he had to take his wife away. Otherwise, wouldn't he have come in vain? Tao Tao should have been angry, but seeing his childish side, she did not know whether to laugh or cry. She reached out to push him away. At the same time, a cold and smiling voice came, resounding through the whole courtyard. How dare you? You actually want to take away this senior's favorite disciple. Just as the voice came out, Tao Tao's body stiffened. She had hidden it for so long, but she was still discovered. Chapter 17:30. Higashio Motetsu frowned. Although he knew who it was as soon as he heard the voice, he was still very unhappy. It was not easy for him to get along with the little witch in private. Why did this person appear at this time? And from the voice, he knew that the visitor was not kind. At this time, Tao Tao had already broken free from his arms and turned over to get out of bed. He also got up with a frown. At this time, the door opened. There was no wind outside, but a gust of wind with petals blew in. If he hadn't passed by the garden and smelled the fragrance of beauties before, he might have thought that this entrance was very beautiful. However, he had just been poisoned by this flower and felt disgusted. Tao Tao, bring your sweetheart to the flower hall. The person outside the door didn't come in, but it felt like he was everywhere. That arrogant and wanton smile gave people the illusion that he was the only one in the world. As soon as he finished speaking, the wind stopped and the fragrance of beauties filled the ground. Tao Tao's legs were a little weak. She had been a little lucky and casually gave Dongting an identity so that her master wouldn't be suspicious. She didn't expect her master to reveal his identity as soon as she opened her mouth. It was obvious that she had already known. At this time, a person stood in front of her. With a smile in his eyes, he gently caressed her face. Don't worry, I'm here. Tao Tao wanted to tell him that her master was not an easy person to get along with. It could be said that she didn't play by the rules. However, when she saw his clear eyes, as if he knew everything, she couldn't help but purse her lips and nod. At this time, she had no one else to trust except him. In the flower hall, in the past, when she came here, at most, there were only her master and a few servants. Now it was full of people. With her master as the center, they spread out on both sides. On the left, there was eldest senior sister Fantasy C, second senior brother Wu Duzi, and third senior brother Enluo. On the right, there was fourth senior sister Piao Gu, fifth senior sister Guisha, and sixth senior brother Jackdaw. There were younger disciples standing on both sides. As soon as Tao Tao and Higashio Motetsu appeared in the parlor, the chattering in the parlor instantly quieted down. However, the silence only lasted for 3 seconds before the chattering resumed. However, this time, most of the chatter revolved around Higashio Motetsu's sudden appearance. Most of the women threw him coquettish glances mixed with disdain and sizing him up. In Higashio Motetsu's eyes, this scene could be compared to the demons and monsters of Yama Palace. None of them were dressed like ordinary people. Some held poisonous scorpions in their hands, some had poisonous snakes coiled around their necks, and some had their faces painted with cobwebs. It was impossible to tell what they looked like. His eyes quickly swept around and found that only Tao Tao, who was beside him, was normal. Tao Tao tugged at his sleeve and said in a low voice, "The one sitting on top is my master." Hearing this, Higashio Motetsu straightened his clothes, then stepped forward and cupped his hands in greeting. Junior Higashio Motetsu greets Senior Magic Doctor. Although this person looked like a demon and was not a kind person, he was still Tao Tao's master, so he bowed respectfully. The Magic Doctor blew at his newly dyed blue irises on his fingernails and glanced at the person who was bowing. He replied casually, "You are the Palace Lord of the Moon Palace?" Higashio Motetsu raised his eyebrows. This person had no manners at all. In the pugilistic world, even those who were more senior than him had never spoken to him in such a tone. However, on the way here, He already knew that the magic doctor was a maverick and did things without reason. There was nothing to fuss about. Yes, I am. I have disturbed you in a hurry this time. If I have offended you in any way, please forgive me. Tao Tao was originally worried that he would not be able to stand her master's way of doing things. She did not expect him to have such an obedient side. Was it because of her? The magic doctor chuckled. Offended? There are indeed some. Junior would like to hear the details. Higashio Motetsu asked in a tone that was neither servile nor overbearing. The magic doctor held her chin with one hand and blinked her eyes innocently. She was incomparably pure, which was the complete opposite of her gorgeous attire. You stepped on many of my flowers and plants when you entered the Devil's Valley. My heart is hurting right now. That is the first reason. The corner of Tao Tao's mouth twitched. Master was acting up again. Secondly, your eyesight is not good. You actually looked down on this Lord's disciple and caused her to return heartbroken. Just based on these 2 points, this Lord has enough to kill you 100 times. The magic doctor said with a smile. Those who did not know would think that she was joking around with you, but in reality, every sentence was a reason to kill you. Master, the first reason is not valid. Those are all weeds and flowers and have no value. The second reason is not his fault. I did it willingly. If you're not happy, punish this disciple. Let him go. Tao Tao could already smell the killing intent in her master's laughter. Once her master was in the mood to joke around with someone, it meant that that person's life was over. She could not let Dong Ting stay here any longer. Otherwise, every flower, every blade of grass, and every tree here would be enough to take his life. Higashio Motetsu keenly sensed the gloating expressions of the people in the parlor. He had a bad premonition, but what shocked him even more was what Tao Tao said. Tao Tao, what nonsense are you spouting? You are a man. If you have a problem, come at me. Stand behind me. He could already feel the killing intent in the parlor. He immediately became vigilant and pulled Tao Tao behind him to protect her. Senior apprentice, Sister Fantasy, Silk smiled coldly. If our Devil's Valley wants to kill someone, it is extremely easy. Don't make a pointless struggle. Fourth senior apprentice, Sister Piao Gu floated around the two and smiled gently at Tao Tao. It is not worth it to lose your life for a man. Come, fourth senior apprentice sister will take you to play. Sixth senior apprentice Brother Jackdaw cackled and cupped his hands to the devil doctor. Master, why don't you let your disciple end this brat's life? Tao Tao tightly clutched Higashio Motetsu's clothes. Her eyes were slightly wet. She whispered self-reproachfully, I am sorry. When I saw you in the bamboo forest, I should have told you to stay far away. Then you wouldn't have gotten involved. It is my fault. She knew that his martial arts were powerful and that he was omnipotent outside. But here, no matter if your martial arts were the best in the world or had reached perfection, as long as the Devil's Valley wanted your life, you had to stay. At this moment, she was filled with regret. Higashio Motetsu had been paying attention to everyone's behavior. When he suddenly heard her low and hoarse voice, his heart warmed. He took her hand and gently patted her head. Smiling, he said, the one who should be apologizing is me. If I had known my heart earlier, I would not have let you step into this devil's Denver Dong Ting. Her eyes were hazy with tears. At this moment, the parlor became even more noisy. Yo, there is even a parting of life and death. Where are the melon seeds and fruits? This is the show of the year. Come and watch. It is free. The front row sells melon seeds. The back row sells tea. All of you shut up. You're giving me a headache. The devil doctor raised his orchid fingers and pinched the space between his eyebrows. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone turned mute. They rolled their eyes and did not speak. At this moment, Higashio Motetsu said to the devil doctor, Senior devil doctor, you were wrong just now. Everyone immediately glared at him. Did this brat not want to live anymore? Oh, that's not right. He wasn't going to live anyway. Chapter 17:31. The magic doctor made an O sound, then raised his eyebrows and looked at him with interest. Let's hear it. Higashio Motetsu turned around and patted the back of her hand, indicating for her to be at ease. Then, he cupped his hands towards the magic doctor and said, You said that this junior doesn't like Tao Tao, but that's wrong. Tao Tao is a good girl. This junior likes her very much and doesn't want to let her down. This time, I came to the Devil's Valley to take her away, so the second reason is indeed not valid. Is that so? The magic doctor looked at him with interest. But why is the version that this senior heard different? You're not lying to the senior, are you? When she heard him say that he liked her, Tao Tao hesitated for a moment. He wasn't telling the truth, right? And after her master's words, she found a trace of reason. Yes, Dong Ting might have thought of her as a friend. Just like she said, a dog that he had raised for 3 years also had feelings. He probably wasn't used to her not being by his side for a while, so he came out to find her. It wasn't because he liked her. The girl he liked was smart and beautiful. Even if she rode a horse, she wouldn't be able to catch up. Higashio Motetsu had his back to her and faced the magic doctor, smiling faintly. What this junior said is the truth. All right, then let's not count those crimes for now. The magic doctor paused here, then continued in high spirits. Then let's talk about your new crimes. He had already prepared for the worst, but he didn't expect this person to not play by the rules. Higashio Motetsu's eyes twitched, but he still cupped his hands and said, "Senior, please speak." The sweet smile on the magic doctor's face suddenly turned into a demon demanding life. No matter if you like Tao Tao or not, since she has returned to the Devil's Valley, it means that she no longer has the right to choose. You actually want to take her away? That's simply wishful thinking. Do you really think that our Devil's Valley is easy to deal with? When the words fell, the atmosphere in the parlor was as cold as ice. What if this junior insists on taking her away? Higashio Motetsu didn't budge an inch. The magic doctor's expression changed, finally settling on a fake smile. Then you have 3 choices: suicide, poison, death. All 3 choices were death. Master, he's talking nonsense. Please be magnanimous and let him out of the valley. I'm willing to bear all the blame. Tao Tao walked past the person in front of him and knelt down. He raised his head and said firmly. Higashio Motetsu looked at the little girl kneeling there, pleading for him. His heart trembled violently in an instant, and his eyes burned with passion. He quickly walked to her side and squatted in front of her. He softly said, "Tao Tao, you don't have to do this. Even if I die here, you don't have to kneel down and beg for mercy for me. Get up quickly." Tears welled up in Tao Tao's eyes. She gritted her teeth and shook her head. "Don't worry, Dong Ting. I'm Master's disciple. At most, she'll punish me. She won't hurt me. If you let me beg Master, she'll be soft-hearted and let you go." Higashio Motetsu stared at her until their eyes clearly reflected each other's appearance. Only then did he look away. He lifted his clothes and did something that Tao Tao never expected. He knelt down beside Tao Tao and looked straight at the magic doctor who was sitting at the head of the table, watching the show. He said in a clear voice, "Senior Magic Doctor, please give this junior a chance. What does this junior have to do for you to let this junior take Tao Tao away?" The moment he opened his mouth, the tears in Tao Tao's eyes finally fell. She covered her mouth and looked at him, crying silently. Higashio Motetsu was famous in the Jianghu when he was young. He was already the palace master of the Moon Palace at such a young age. His elegance was outstanding, and countless women bowed to him. This kind of talented, intelligent, and incomparably proud person bent his knees and lowered his noble head for her. She couldn't believe that he would go to this step for her. He would actually go to this step. Just as she was in a daze, she heard her master's fingers lightly tapping the table. He smiled proudly and said, "This is the first time the sect master has knelt to this sovereign." "Interesting, interesting." Tao Tao immediately looked at him. He must be very upset to be humiliated like this. The person beside her didn't look at her. Instead, he reached out and held her fingers. He rubbed them comfortingly, indicating that she shouldn't worry. His voice was neither servile nor overbearing as he said, "Senior, please give me a chance. Since you've said it so sincerely, then this sovereign will be merciful this once. It's not like I can't give you a chance." The magic doctor's gaze fell on their intertwined hands. His eyes flashed, and he tilted his head and smiled. "As long as your luck is good enough." Higashio Motetsu and Tao Tao looked at each other. They didn't know what this person was planning. Then they heard the magic doctor say, "Come, bring the things up." Soon, 4 boys came up carrying a large tray. When they got closer, everyone saw that there were 100 porcelain bottles on it. Everyone didn't understand what their master was thinking, but it should be fun. Tao subconsciously felt a sense of crisis. She held his hand tightly and said anxiously, "Later, no matter what master says, you can't agree." Tao, don't be nervous." Higashio Motetsu patted the back of her hand. The magic doctor pointed at the 100 porcelain bottles on the ground and said with a smile, "These bottles contain the most poisonous poison in the Devil Valley, soul ecstasy. Except for one bottle that contains plain water, there's no poison. Didn't you ask the sovereign to give you a chance? Here, your chance is here. You can pick a bottle from here. Whether you live or die, it's all up to you. If you die, it means that your luck is bad. You can't blame others. If you live, you and Tao can leave the Devil Valley." Everyone's expression changed. It was actually soul ecstasy. It was said that as long as a person touched a drop of it, their entire body would turn into water. The pain was self-evident. They didn't expect that their master would use it to deal with this brat. It was a good show to watch. They hadn't seen the effects of soul ecstasy. This time, they could broaden their horizons. Who knows, it might be helpful for them to make poisons in the future. How about it? Do you dare to accept the challenge? The magic doctor looked at him calmly. His smile was a little scary. Picking one out of 100 bottles, there's still a chance. What if you win? But if you give up, it's fine. You look good, and this sovereign's mood is good. I won't pursue your crime of trespassing into the Devil Valley and let you leave. But there's only one chance. If you can't take Tao away this time, don't think of seeing her again. Tao's lips trembled. As expected, how could her master be so kind? This method was simply too cruel. She walked in front of him and held his hand tightly. She shook her head and said in horror, "Picking one out of 100 bottles is too difficult. You should give up." Higashio Motetsu smiled at her. Tao, I can promise you anything except for this. If I can't see you, what's the meaning of life? As long as there's a chance, I won't give up the possibility of you staying by my side." After saying that, he firmly pulled her hand away. Chapter 1732. This junior is willing to accept the challenge. When these simple words were spoken, Tao's panic reached its peak. 99 bottles of poison and 1 bottle of plain water. Who would have the luck to pick the only bottle? Moreover, it was a gamble with his life. How could she let him take this risk? She walked in front of her master and said in a hoarse voice, "Master, this disciple does not agree with this competition. Please take back your order." The demonic doctor rubbed her head and smiled as he said, "Master can't help you with this, silly disciple, unless he gives up on his own accord." Hearing this, she quickly walked in front of him and blocked his steps. She hugged his hand and gritted her teeth as she shook her head. "Dong Ting, let's not compete. Don't take the risk for me. Quickly tell Master that you didn't think clearly and wanted to give up." However, this person also rubbed her head like her master did. With a smile on his face, he reached out his hand and unexpectedly pressed on her acupoint. She was frozen in place. She opened her mouth, but couldn't say a word. She looked at the person in front of her in disbelief. Why? He understood the words in her eyes, and his lips hooked into a smile. "You're too noisy. It will affect my judgment. Be quiet. Be good. It'll be fine in a while." Tao gritted her teeth. There were many things she wanted to say, but this bastard had tapped her mute acupuncture point. What should she do? She couldn't just watch him walk to hell. At this time, the servant had already placed the porcelain bottles in front of the two of them. Higashio Motetsu's gaze swept over those bottles and finally landed on Tao. He walked in front of her, and the two of them were very close, so close that they could feel each other's breath. His smile was unruly, as if they were meeting for the first time. "Although I said that you have to believe me, there are some things that if I don't say now, I'm afraid that I won't have a chance to say it to you in the future." Tao looked at him in a daze. "Before I met you, my eyes were always on that girl, Qingyan. At first, it was because I was very curious about her. She was only 10 years old, yet she knew so much about the ways of the world. She was also so cunning like a little fox. Later on, I approach her with a motive, but I didn't expect her to be so smart and see through it. When I met her again after 5 years, I realized that this little girl had a big place in my heart. After we got back together, I followed her to do business in Jiangnan because I was bored. Gradually, I was attracted by her indomitable spirit, intelligence, and cuteness. However, when I realized that I had fallen in love with her, it was already too late because she already had a lover. Later, I thought that I should stay by her side, protect her, and give her what she needs. In the end, I did it. I almost lost my life, but I don't regret it. He met her eyes and smiled. What I don't regret is not that I've done so much for her, but that I met you. Tao Tao, I'm very grateful to God for letting me meet you. You saved my life, but also made my life lively. But I'm very sorry. Because of my ignorance, I neglected you. It wasn't until that rainy day when you decided to leave that I slowly realized what I had lost. When I saw the flowers and plants in the courtyard, I thought of you. When I saw the swing under the grape trellis, I thought of you. When I saw the bustling street, I still thought of you. As long as I closed my eyes, you would appear in my mind and in my dreams. It turns out that in these years, you have replaced Qingyan in my heart. I have already said goodbye to my past self, and I have also said goodbye to Qingyan. When I saw Qingyan that day, I realized that I still have feelings for her. What's left is mostly admiration and affection for my family. So this time, I came to the Devil's Valley to make it clear to you. Please give me a chance. I won't ignore you again, I won't leave you again, and I won't hurt you again. You told me that your true self is not what you show in front of me. I also want to tell you that the me you see is only my true self. Before I met you, although I lived freely, I often felt lonely. I was also cold, and I also yearned for the warmth of my family. So don't worry. No matter what you are the little which I care about the most. It's a pity that I woke up too late. But now that I have the chance to talk to you face to face, I'm already very satisfied. He tilted his head and winked at her with a smile. That kind of unbridled arrogance made the spring breeze unable to help but stop. Tao Tao was so shocked by his words that she couldn't recover for a long time. After digesting those words with great difficulty, she didn't have the time to be happy. She saw a white brocade cloth in his hand. She looked at him, not knowing what he was going to do. Higashio Motetsu raised his hand and touched her face, his eyes filled with tenderness. Tao Tao, I regret that I didn't cherish the time we had together. Now, for a moment, I can't help but want to seize it. After saying that, he laughed at himself. Then, he leaned over and kissed her cheek. It was as light as a feather. Tao Tao, my heart is in love with you. She had been looking forward to these words before. She had already given up on the night of the heavy rain. She was already in despair, but she didn't expect to hear it in such a situation. Before she could be happy, she had to face losing it again. God, why are you so cruel? Give me a little hope, and it's immediately extinguished. Make me despair. After saying that, Higashio Motetsu didn't give her time to think. He raised his hand and covered her eyes with the brocade cloth, tying a knot behind her head. So much so that she couldn't see anything clearly before her eyes was a vast expanse of white. Dong Ting, don't go. I already know that the person in your heart is me. I'm already very satisfied. Even if I don't have you to spend the rest of my life alone, with those beautiful memories, I'm not afraid of anything. I don't want anything, I just want you to live. At this time, her eyes were covered and she could only focus on her ears. She heard him walk a few steps and stop. According to the distance just now, he had already walked in front of the porcelain bottle. Then she heard him ask, Senior Magic Doctor, this junior heard that your valley has a medicine that can make people forget their feelings. That's right, it's called love-severing water. This junior has a presumptuous request. If this junior is unlucky and doesn't survive, please give it to Tao Tao. It's approved. Many thanks. Tears rolled out of her eyes drop by drop. Tao Tao's eyes were hazy with tears. She bit her lip until it was dripping with blood. No, I don't want to forget you. In life, I'll accompany you. In death, I'll accompany you. Higashio Motetsu bent down to choose a bottle. The white bottle glowed at his fingertips. He turned around to look at the person beside him. He really wanted to touch her face and hug her again. He sighed slightly and smiled. Then he opened the bottle and drank it. If this is poison, I don't want you to see the cruelest scene. You are the lively warmth that I accidentally let go of. If there is an afterlife, I will definitely meet you early and then tie you to my side, never letting you leave my side. If this isn't poison, then I'll take you home. Chapter 1733. The fate between people was very strange. Sometimes, you thought that the person you met day and night would stay in your world forever. However, when one turned left and the other turned right, they would be lost in the vast sea of people. Sometimes, the person you thought you would never see again would not meet again after brushing shoulders. However, when you turn a corner, the two people would unexpectedly meet again. If you and that person were fated, the heavens would not let you miss each other so easily. So sometimes it was possible to come back from the jaws of death. When she heard the sound of them drinking, Tao Tao collapsed. When her acupuncture point was unsealed, she fell to the ground. Her hands trembled, but she did not dare to reach out and untie the cloth. She was afraid that once she untied it, that elegant person would no longer be there. Only a pool of blood would be left. At this moment, it really felt like a year. At this time, a person walked in front of her, squatted down, and then gently patted her head. The familiar aura, the familiar temperature, and the familiar action made the crying person gradually stop and raise her head in a daze. And at this time, that cloth was taken down. In an instant, there was a bright light. She wanted to see the person in front of her clearly, but her eyes stung. The more she wanted to see, the more she could not see clearly, and the more tears flowed. The book says that women are made of water. I did not believe it at first, but now it seems that it was not a lie. A mocking voice came from above her head. At this moment, her eyes were clear, allowing her to see the face that was more dazzling than the sun. She was stunned for a moment, and then suddenly threw herself at him. "You scare me to death! You scare me to death!" she cried loudly in his arms, unable to control herself. Fear, despair, grief, finding what she had lost, joy. Life's joys and sorrows were nothing more than this. Higashio Motetsu hugged her, allowing her to vent her emotions. He had a smile on his face. Coming back from the jaws of death, he did not know if it was his luck that was too good, or his gaze fell on the main seat, the devil doctor who was not surprised to see him safe and sound after drinking it. When he picked up the porcelain bottle, her eyes seemed to flash with a trace of praise. At this time, she revealed a bored expression, but she was not angry or shocked. It was as if everything was under her control. At this time, the person in his arms tugged at his sleeve, and he couldn't help but look down. Daunting. Daunting. When he responded for the third time, he suddenly realized that she wasn't calling him for fun. She was really afraid. She was afraid that he was just an illusion in front of her. He reached out to hold her hand and replied softly, "I'm here." Tao Tao hugged his neck tightly and pressed her face against his chest. She closed her eyes. "It's great that you're still alive." He smiled. "Yeah, with you around, everything is fine." At this moment, an untimely voice sounded. "Speaking of which, the two of you, stop being so lovey-dovey in front of me. If you continue like this, I will punish you with the crime of polluting your eyes." The magical doctor narrowed her eyes and looked at them unhappily. If they dared to continue, she really wouldn't be polite. These days, she hated people who showed off their affection at any time and place. It was only then that Tao Tao reacted. She was actually in Doning's arms in public, just now. It was simply too embarrassing. She immediately stood up and lowered her head in embarrassment. The warmth in his arms disappeared in an instant. Higashio Motetsu raised his eyebrows. In any case, she was right in front of him, so there was no need to rush. Thus, he retracted his hand and stood shoulder to shoulder with Tao Tao, facing the person on the main seat. The magical doctor touched her earlobes and rolled her eyes. "Although I didn't want to let you have it easy, it's a pity that you still passed the test." Higashio Motetsu smiled and cupped his hands. "Thank you, Senior Magical Doctor, for your help." The magical doctor looked up and met his eyes. Smart people had a tacit understanding. The magical doctor looked at him deeply, then raised her eyebrows and turned to her disciple. "Yeah, what a pity. The cabbage that Master carefully watered and cultivated was actually eaten by a pig. But seeing that this fellow is still considered good-looking, Master will reluctantly let you go." "Thank you, Master." Tao Tao bowed and thanked him. "But Tao Tao, Master will say this first. Last time, you begged Master to let you go. This time, he begged Master to let you go. Don't do it more than 3 times. If you come back in the future, Master will not make an exception for you. So don't come back for no reason." After saying this, the magical doctor didn't wait for her reply and had people chase them out, saying that they were an eyesore. Senior Sister Fantasy Silk watched the 2 people disappear through the parlor's door and turned to the person on the main seat. "Master, you went easy on him." The magical doctor rubbed his chin and smiled innocently. "How could Master go easy on him? That fellow couldn't have chosen a non-poisonous bottle in such a short time. No matter how good his luck is, it can't be that good." Second senior brother, 5 Poison, said firmly. Everyone looked at the magical doctor, expressing their doubts. The magical doctor smiled. It was no longer a strange expression, but a smile that came from the bottom of his heart. Those medicines were left behind by the master of the Devil Valley 100 years ago, because in those years, there would be disciples betraying their master for love, so the Devil Master thought of a way. If the disciple's sweetheart was willing to take the test and choose 1 bottle from 100, then they would be set free. It's a pity, ever since this test was born, no one has touched the 100 bottles. It's not that the disciples are obediently staying in the valley and not moved by love, but that no one dared to take the challenge. So after so many years, your 7 junior sister's sweetheart was the first to take the test. So it's like that. "But Master, you said so much, then did you go easy on him?" The disciples began to struggle with this question again. The magical doctor looked at the curious disciples and raised her jade finger to point outside the window. "You haven't forgotten what day it is today, right? Since it's daybreak, then the Devil Valley's master selection will start early." "What the hell? Starting the test early because of a disagreement?" This disciple still wants to cram at the last minute. In the blink of an eye, the entire parlor was empty. The magical doctor smiled and stood up. She slowly walked towards the pile of porcelain bottles and squatted down without any scruples. She casually picked up a bottle and played with it in her hand. Sighing, she said, "This Devil Master who wasn't that long ago was really amazing. He was actually able to develop such a good medicine for curing injuries and detoxifying. I heard that he was also a peerless handsome man. It's a pity that he's already dead. If this sovereign was born a few hundred years earlier, perhaps she would have a graceful bearing. That Dong Ting brat looks pretty good. I originally wanted to let him stay to water the Devil Valley, but after thinking about it, I decided not to. That person is smart. If he burned down the Devil Valley, then the loss would outweigh the gain." After the magical doctor talked to herself, she pulled out the cork from the bottle and drank it. She heard that this medicine could also beautify and nourish one's skin. What a pity that brat got lucky. Chapter 1734. Tao Tao never thought that there would be a day when she would leave the Devil's Valley again. Ever since she returned, she was prepared to guard the Devil's Valley for the rest of her life. Now that she was out of the Devil's Valley, she felt as if a lifetime had passed, especially with this person beside her. If it was in the past, she wouldn't even dare to think that they would walk together. "Is that bamboo as good-looking as me?" A handsome face squeezed in her line of sight, constantly enlarging, bringing with it a sense of jealousy. Tao Tao hurriedly reached out to push him away. "Just talk, why are you so close? We've even done intimate things. Why will we be afraid of this little bit of distance?" Higashio Motetsu rubbed his chin, smiling in a way that made people want to beat him up. Hearing this, Tao Tao's face heated up, and she lifted her leg to step on him. Shameless. Higashio Motetsu easily dodged her shadowless kick, reaching out to touch her waist, and then his arm tightened, pulling her into his embrace. The tip of his nose touched her earlobe, and the corner of his lips hooked up. "Wife, your waist is so soft." Higashio Motetsu was such a person. At first, When you weren't familiar with him, he looked incomparably devilish, with a smile at the corner of his mouth that didn't reach his eyes. Once he opened his heart to you, he wouldn't be serious at all. On the other hand, Tao Tao was cold. Only in front of him would she act like a normal girl. If she hadn't met him, and then loved the people around him, she might have continued to be cold and indifferent like this. The two of them were too close. Tao Tao's eyebrows twitched, and her face heated up. Why didn't she feel that this person was so shameless before? She pushed him, but he didn't budge. She said unhappily, "Why are you like this? You let a hungry wolf have a taste of sweetness. Of course it's thinking about it. Listen, this person still has the nerve to bring it out." When his breath was getting closer, she suddenly thought of something and interrupted his movements, reaching out to grab his wrist. "Let me take a look at your body. You haven't cleaned up the remaining poison yesterday, and then you went into the reception pavilion. I don't know if you've encountered any other poison." Higashio Motetsu's phoenix eyes flashed. "Wife, how do you want to see it? Do you want to take off your clothes?" As he spoke, he was already about to undress. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw that he was really going to undo his belt. She quickly grabbed his hand, her face flushed red. Hey, I'm just taking your pulse." Hearing this, he slumped against her body and said weakly, "Wife, I don't think I'm feeling well." The corners of Tao Tao's mouth twitched. Her acting was so exaggerated. When she touched his wrist just now, she had already taken his pulse. His body was completely fine, okay? Moreover, not only was there no problem, but it was also unbelievably good. Even the aftereffects left behind by the old wounds and poisons had all been cleared up. When she told him about it, he was a little surprised. Then he smiled like a fox. "Then I'll take it as a blessing in disguise." Tao Tao didn't understand. He smiled and hugged her waist, his eyes smiling. "Your Devil Valley is a strange existence indeed." When he said this, Tao Tao rolled her eyes. If this person didn't want to say it, then he didn't want to say it. What nonsense was this? All right, don't worry about those unimportant things. Higashio Motetsu lowered his head and pressed it against her forehead. His phoenix eyes looked at her seriously, no longer as frivolous as before. "Tao Tao, this subordinate didn't see anything." "I didn't see anything. You can continue." A voice broke the ambiguous atmosphere in the bamboo forest. Xuanqi Zimo covered his eyes with both hands and secretly opened them a little. Higashio Motetsu cursed in his heart. "Continue my ass." His wife had already pushed him away. "You came at the right time." He practically squeezed the words out through gritted teeth. Xuanqi Zimo chuckled and immediately retreated behind Tao Tao. The palace lord was so angry that he hid behind the palace lord's wife to avoid disaster. So fierce. He was still so fierce after being caught, doing something bad. Tao Tao glared at Higashio Motetsu. Higashio Motetsu rubbed his nose and snorted. He didn't say anything else. Xuanqi Zimo was surprised to find that his palace lord really didn't bother him after Tao Tao glared at him. His palace lord had become a henpecked husband? What happened in the 2 days that he wasn't here? Higashio Motetsu was displeased when he saw this brat staring at his little enchantress. He took out his folding fan and knocked him on the head. His tone was unfriendly. "If you have something to say it quickly." Xuanqi Zimo heard what he didn't say. "If you don't have anything to say, scram." He didn't want to disturb his masters. He really did have something to say. He immediately took out a letter and handed it over. "Palace Lord, this is a letter from the capital. Miss Chu sent someone to deliver it." Higashio Motetsu was stunned. He didn't immediately take it. His gaze subconsciously drifted to the person beside him. Tao Tao didn't notice his gaze. Instead, she urged him to open it quickly. He didn't say anything. He took the letter and opened it. After reading 10 lines at a glance, he looked a little surprised and turned to look at Tao Tao. The latter sensed his gaze and asked doubtfully, "What did Qingyan write in the letter?" Higashio Motetsu directly handed the letter to her. Xuanqi Zimo was dumbfounded. His palace lord actually allowed Tao Tao to read his letter? And it was Miss Chu's letter. Sharing a letter was such an intimate matter. This meant that their moon palace was about to welcome a palace lord's wife. However, He didn't get to rejoice for long before he saw the future palace lord's wife looking at his palace lord with a faint smile. "So, you came to the Devil's Valley to find me for a reason? What you said wasn't true. You just wanted to trick me into helping you save someone? What about me? Do you think I'm blind? This letter was sent last month. Don't tell me you only saw it now." After saying this, she didn't wait for Higashio Motetsu to explain. She stomped her foot down. "Who told you to dodge?" After that, she snorted coldly and strode forward. Higashio Motetsu looked at the small footprint on his shoe, his heart filled with unspeakable bitterness. He had only seen the letter today. He didn't know that Xingyin had sent the letter to ask Tao Tao to help save someone. As soon as he saw the letter, he knew that things were bad. Tao Tao would definitely misunderstand. This letter really didn't come at the right time. Xuanqi Zimo, who had shrunk his neck, was dragged out by his collar. "Tell me, what's going on? Why did you only see the letter now?" Xuanqi Zimo felt very wronged. "Palace Lord, this letter did arrive last month, but weren't you busy looking for Miss Tao Tao? The subordinates didn't dare to disturb you, so they kept it hidden. It really wasn't on purpose." Higashio Motetsu just remembered that because there hadn't been any news of Tao Tao in the past few months, he had ordered that no matter what happened, they were not to bother him. He hadn't expected that they would trip him up in the end. "Can't you be a little more observant? Take it out later." Dongting Wangyu knocked on his head, exasperated at his failure to live up to his expectations. The wife that he had spent so much effort to coax was going to fly away again. Why was the road to wooing her so long? He had to woo her first. Xuanqi Zimo touched his head, wanting to cry. How could he know what was written in the letter? Chapter 1735. There was a reason behind the arrival of that letter. It had to be traced back to a month ago. Chu Qingyin and the others returned to Sichuan from North Korea. Compared to her father, Divine Dr. Shun, who was elusive, this time he happened to be in his own medical clinic. Thus, he rushed to the capital as soon as he received the letter. Chu Qingyin and the others had just crossed the border and were on their way back to the capital to meet up with him. Because Sima Jun was pregnant, Ji Linyang did not allow her to travel long distances for the sake of the baby in her womb. Thus, they parted ways with Xiao Su and the others after leaving North Korea. However, they also agreed that they would come to the capital to look for them after Sima Jun gave birth to the child. Chu Qingyin reluctantly sent her good friends off. She leaned into her big ice cube's embrace and sighed. "If it weren't for the fact that I'm also pregnant, I really want to go with them to take a look. I heard from Sima that they have a natural hot spring there. It's so comfortable to soak in it at this time." His slender, fair fingers were running through her hair. He paused when he heard her words. Meanwhile, his owner was looking at the person in his arms warmly. "I'll take you there after the child is born." Chu Qingyin's brows curved into crescents as she nodded in agreement. At this moment, she heard giggles outside. She couldn't help but sit up and lift the carriage curtains. Kong Kong was sitting on a tall horse, dancing with joy. He was the one who had laughed earlier. Her father was sitting behind him, teaching Kong Kong how to ride a horse. However, Kong Kong's attention was focused on the horse's ears. He would tug at them from time to time, looking so innocent and lively. Chu Qingyin couldn't help but laugh along with him. "Kong Kong is becoming more and more like you." A faint chuckle sounded beside her ear. She tilted her head and smiled. "Why isn't he like you? I wasn't this lively in the past." Xiao Su thought back to when he was a child. All he wanted was for his father and mother to look at him. He tried his best to memorize the 4 books and 5 classics. Other than books, there was only brush and ink in his childhood. She leaned on his shoulder and placed her fingers on the back of his hand. She said softly, "Misfortune and luck always go hand in hand. You didn't have the fun of your childhood, but you're full of wisdom and wisdom. You're undefeated." Xiao Su smiled and lowered his head to kiss her hair. The past was the past. Now that he thought about it, it was just a period of time that had turned yellow. It did not have the beauty of his wife and child in front of him now. "Once I'm done with these matters, I'll accompany you to see the world." His gentle and powerful words made Chu Qingyin's eyes turn misty. She nodded, then wrapped her arms around his waist and buried her face in his chest. As long as you're here, I'll gladly endure anything, no matter if it's a sea of fire or a mountain of swords. In another carriage, Xiao carried a bowl of medicine to the person leaning on the soft pillow. I've already blown on it. It's not hot anymore. Gongsun Shui looked at the black medicine in front of her and drank it without blinking. Although it was extremely bitter, she did not show it on her face. This was not the first time Xiao saw her drink medicine, but he always felt sorry for her. If she did not drink medicine often, she would not be able to endure such bitterness. Eat a plum to suppress the taste. As he spoke, he found a big plum from the food box and put to her lips. Gongsun Shui did not like sweets, but she knew that he could not bear to see her suffer, so she opened her mouth and ate it. Seeing her so obedient, Xiao could not help but reach out to touch her head. Good girl. Gongsun Shui glanced at him. Xiao immediately withdrew his hand and rubbed his chin, smiling awkwardly. At this time, the carriage was moving along the shore. The breeze lifted the curtain of the carriage, revealing the willow bank outside. Gongsun Shui's gaze happened to fall on it, and could not help but be attracted. Xiao saw that she kept looking out of the window and laughed. He said in a proud tone, I didn't lie to you, did I? Our Sichuan is vast, and the scenery is picturesque. Are you about to fall in love with this place? Although the way he boasted about himself was very annoying, Gongsun Shui had to admit that he was telling the truth. The local customs that she had seen along the way were completely different from those in North Korea. Everywhere was picturesque, and North Korea paled in comparison. She had fallen in love with Xixian as soon as she saw it. Although the ice beauty didn't answer him, he could tell from her expression that she liked him. He couldn't help but reach out to hold her slender jade hand and said softly, There are many beautiful places in our Xixian. Once you're cured, I'll take you to visit all of these great rivers and mountains. Gongsun Shui was moved. She knew that during this period, he always smiled more brightly than others and often made her happy. In fact, he was more worried about her than anyone else. Even when he was sleeping, he did not dare to sleep deeply. Whenever she moved, he would immediately wake up. Many times when she woke up in the middle of the night, she would be met with his affectionate gaze. It turned out that he often stayed up all night to watch over her, afraid that she would suddenly not wake up. To be able to meet him in this life, even if life was short, she was satisfied. She held his hand and smiled. Okay, in the past I did not want to live, but now for you, I am willing to fight with the heavens. The atmosphere in the carriage following behind was not as good as the two in front. Water Spirit held a bowl of chicken soup and said kindly to the person in front of her, Feng Ling, drink this soup. Miss Chung said that you need to nourish your body. Although the person leaning against the wall of the carriage looked thin, it could not hide his bamboo-like temperament. His handsome and elegant appearance was a real handsome man. It was a pity that his eyes, which should have been black and shining, were gray, as if they were covered with dust, making people think of pearls covered with dust. Feng Ling was unmoved. Water Spirit, you don't have to trouble yourself to take care of me. I'm already on the verge of death. Who knows when I will pass away? Water Spirit immediately reached out to cover his mouth, not allowing him to continue speaking. Her voice was filled with anger. I won't allow you to say that. Feng Ling reached out to pull her hand down and smiled gently. His smile was full of bitterness. This is the truth. Water Spirit, let's not deceive ourselves and others. Give up on me. You still have a great life and future ahead of you. Don't waste any more time on me. This was not the first time he said these words, but every time she heard it, it felt like her heart was being cut by a knife. Her eyes were faintly filled with tears and her voice was choked with sobs. I waited for you for 10 years. Can I really give up just because you said give up? Feng Ling, when I thought that you were no longer in this world, I told myself that I have been waiting for you my whole life. Now that I have finally found you, how can you be so cruel as to push me away? Feng Ling's lips trembled. If those eyes could see, they were filled with sorrow and bitterness. Chapter 1736. In those dark days, he had hoped that he would be able to see her again. However, his wish had come true, and he was already so broken. She had already wasted 10 years of her life for him. How could he implicate her for the rest of her life? Water spirit, you're suitable for a better man. He opened his mouth and said this heartbreaking sentence. Water spirit was stunned when she heard this. The tears that had long since filled her eyes fell silently. She raised her sleeve to wipe her eyes and then stuffed the soup bowl into his hands. I don't care what you say now. You have to drink this. After doing this, she turned her back, unwilling to look at him, because she was afraid that she would not be able to hold back and cry out loud. The furthest distance in the world was not when I stood in front of you, and you did not know that I loved you. It was when you clearly loved each other, but were unable to be together. Feng Ling still wanted to say something, but his sharp ears caught the faint sobbing sound in the air. His heart ached so much that he could not breathe. He could not bear to say anything else and brought the bowl to his mouth. He only tasted bitterness in his mouth. His eyes were filled with darkness. He could not see the light, nor could he see her current appearance. He could not help but think of when they were still in North Korea. She fainted because she took care of him day and night. He could not see anything and could not do anything. In the end, it was the people outside who heard the noise and helped her up. At that time, he truly saw the reality. The current him could no longer give her happiness. He could not even do the simplest of care. He was already a good-for-nothing. He did not want to implicate her. However, no matter what he said during this period of time, she was not willing to agree. He did not know what to do with her. Just as he put down the bowl, a gust of wind blew in his face. Then he was hugged tightly by someone. That familiar fragrance was what he had dreamed of for the past 10 years. It was the motivation to live on. He wanted to reach out and hug her back, but he froze halfway and did not dare to take another step forward. However, in his embrace was the sound of his heart trembling. I just want to be by your side. Don't chase me away. You are my brilliant spring. With you, I have a whole world. Without you, I have nothing. That pair of gray eyes instantly became sorrowful. Am I not the same? The group entered the capital when the snow melted into spring. Xiao received news of their return and had long sent people to guard the city gates. Once they received them, they would be sent to the palace. Xiao Su and his brothers hadn't seen each other for more than half a year. Although Xiao Su and Xiao Ho were introverted, the three of them couldn't help but sigh and talk about what had happened in the past few days. Third brother, where is divine Dr. Shun? Quickly call him out for me. After saying a few words, Xiao Yao couldn't sit still and immediately urged. Xiao Ho raised his eyebrows. He had long received the news that his second brother had fallen in love with a lady. Now that he saw his anxious expression, he finally believed that his second brother was serious. Initially, he wanted to discuss with him why he had abandoned him and left him to face the entire imperial court alone. However, when he thought about how it was a matter of life and death, he put it aside for the time being. He waved his hand and asked someone to invite Divine Physician Shen out. This was the first time many people were seeing Divine Physician Shen. Although his hair was white, he was still a handsome middle-aged man. When Cheng Yin Luo and Ethereal saw someone they hadn't seen for a long time, they immediately went up to him. Ethereal bowed respectfully, while Cheng Yin Luo affectionately called out Daddy. Divine Physician Shun stroked his daughter's head and patted his disciple's shoulder. Then he walked over and bowed to Xiao Su and the rest. Xiaoyan has told me everything. Which two people need my treatment? Xiao Su guided him. Divine Physician Shun didn't waste any time. He asked someone to help Feng Ling and Gong Sun Shui to sit down. Then he stretched out his hand to take Feng Ling's pulse. During this time, Ethereal had already described Feng Ling's previous symptoms. Divine Physician Shun already had a diagnosis in his heart. When Divine Physician Shun withdrew his hand, Water Spirit, who was standing by the side, couldn't wait to ask, Divine Physician, how is it? Can Feng Ling's injury be treated? Divine Physician Shun stroked his beard. His voice was indiscernible. Wait a moment. Let me take that lady's pulse too. Water Spirit wanted to say something, but Feng Ling reached out and patted the back of her hand, indicating for her to calm down. Only then did Water Spirit calm down. Xiao Yao was waiting by the side. When he saw this, He immediately pulled Divine Physician Shun towards the ice beauty. Divine Physician, take a look. Divine Physician Shin staggered from being pulled. Fortunately, Xiao Su glanced at Xiao Yao. Xiao Yao withdrew his hand awkwardly and said respectfully, Divine Physician, please. Divine Physician Shun had seen many family members of patients like this. He wasn't surprised and adjusted his clothes. Then, he took Gongsun Shui's pulse. Although he had already disregarded life and death, he still had concerns in his heart. Gongsun Shui looked at the hand on her wrist and couldn't help but feel nervous. She hoped that there would be a miracle. Xiao Yao stared at him intently. He felt that a long time had passed and was about to lose his patience. After a while, Divine Physician Shun withdrew his hand and sighed softly. This sigh made everyone's heart clench. Divine Physician, what's the situation? Tell us quickly. We're all worried to death. Xiao Yao asked quickly. It was clearly a cold day, but his forehead was full of sweat. Divine Physician Shin shook his head and said, Young Master Feng Ling has been poisoned too deeply. Although he's under control, he's been suffering from injuries for a long time. He's already injured to the core. Blindness in his eyes is just the beginning. In the future, he might lose his sense of taste and hearing. After all 5 senses are lost, it'll be the end of his life. I'm powerless. When he said this, everyone was shocked. Water Spirit's legs went soft, and she almost fell to the ground. Fortunately, Cheng Yinluo held her up. What about her? Xiao Yao also had a bad premonition after hearing about Feng Ling's condition. He stabilized his voice and asked, Miss Gongsuin's illness was brought out from her mother's womb. It's not a poison, but a parasite. It should be placed on the mother's body. Because she's pregnant, the parasite is placed on the child. However, I don't know much about parasites, so I'm powerless. Divine Physician Shun successively said that he was powerless, causing the entire hall to fall into a dead silence. Xiao Yao stared blankly at the ice beauty. His eyes were red as he reached out to hold her hand. It's all right, Divine Physician Shun is powerless. We'll find someone else. There will definitely be someone who can cure you. We can't give up. Gongsun Shui returned a smile. We won't give up. Just as everyone was immersed in sorrow, Divine Dr. Shin stroked his chin and said, Don't be anxious, this old man isn't done yet. Although this old man is helpless against these 2 illnesses, this old man knows that there are people in this world who can treat them. Who is it? Father, don't keep us in suspense. Cheng Yinluo stared at him anxiously and amusedly. Divine Physician Shun's words reignited Xiao Yao and Water Spirit's hope. The 2 of them stared at him intently, waiting for him to continue. Divine Physician Shin smiled and said, You should have heard of the Northern Demonic Doctor, right? The medical skills that I've learned from her are basically polar opposites. Your illnesses aren't within the scope of my abilities, but it's not difficult for the demonic doctor. Poison and parasites are her specialties. As long as we can invite her, there's hope for your illnesses. He frowned slightly. It's a pity that the demonic doctor has an eccentric temperament. She hasn't left the valley to treat people for many years. Chapter 1737. Strange? How so? Hearing that Divine Dr. Shun even mentioned the person, Water Spirit stepped forward and asked anxiously. Although she was in charge of the Fierce Wind Cavalry's information channel, she only paid attention to the people and matters that she needed to know. This devil doctor was not within her scope and was also a member of the pugilistic world. She had no clue at all. Divine Dr. Shun twirled his beard, looking as though he was reminiscing. The devil doctor is temperamental. She saves people based on her mood. Ever since she returned to the Devil Valley 10 years ago, she rarely appeared in the pugilistic world. There are rumors that she is tired of the deceitful life and doesn't want to come out again. As long as she is human, she will have a weakness. Our Xiao family has nothing but money. As long as we can invite her, no matter how much money we have to spend, we will not hesitate. Xiao Yao squinted his eyes and said firmly. Divine Dr. Shin smiled and waved his hand. Xiao Yao was stunned, only to hear Divine Dr. Shin say, Money to her is nothing. Those who can seek treatment from her are all rich and respectable people. She only chooses people who are pleasing to her eyes to treat. So this is what I meant by strange. Then for what you said, doesn't it mean that there is no hope for treatment? Xiao Yao's brows were tightly knitted together. His voice was indescribably tense. Divine Dr. Shun also frowned awkwardly. At this moment, the drowsy Chu Qingyan, who was sitting at the side, suddenly woke up when she heard the words Devil Valley. She muttered to herself, Devil Valley, Devil Doctor. That's right. Everyone was attracted by her suddenly raised voice. Xiaosu was puzzled. Ian, what's wrong? Chu Qingyan grabbed his hand and smiled brightly. I remember now. Tao Tao is the disciple of the demonic doctor. Her medical skills are all from the demonic doctor. If we can't get the demonic doctor to come, we can get her to help. Although Tao Tao did not mention much about her sect, she remembered that Tao Tao once said that if the people from her sect wanted to leave the valley, their medical skills must be recognized by their master. Otherwise, they would not even be able to leave the door. Furthermore, she was able to pull Dong Ting out of the gates of hell. It could be seen that her medical skills were not to be outdone. Divine Dr. Shun's eyes brightened. Princess Consort is right. It's fine if the devil doctor doesn't come out of seclusion. It's possible to find her disciple. A trace of regret appeared on Xiao Yao's face. He slammed his fist on the table and said, If I knew her identity, I would have let her treat the Ice Beauty's illness. It would not have been delayed until now. A look of guilt appeared in Chu Qingyan's eyes. She blamed herself and said, If only I had remembered earlier. Hearing this, Xiao Su frowned and glanced at his second son. He reached out and covered his wife's hand. Miss Tao has already left. You don't have the ability to predict the future. You're not wrong. Only then did Xiao Yao realize that he had said something wrong. He hurriedly got up and apologized to his sister-in-law. Imperial sister-in-law, I was careless with my words just now. I didn't mean to blame you. Please forgive me and don't argue with me. Gong Sun Shue also said apologetically, he is impatient and did not mean to. Qingyan, please do not take it to heart. Chu Qingyan smiled and waved her hand. Second brother is worried about you. Why should I take it to heart? Besides, shouldn't your focus be on Tao Tao? Water Spirit immediately said, Master, we don't know where Miss Tao Tao is now. Can this subordinate send Pigeon Feather to find her? Xiaosu nodded. There's no time to lose. Send someone to look for her. Water Spirit was overjoyed and turned to instruct her trusted subordinate. At this moment, Chu Qingyan said to De Bing, when Tao Tao left, Dong Ting also chased after her. Maybe he knows where Tao Tao is now. I'll write a letter to him. If he can bring Tao Tao back, it would be even better. Xiaosu nodded. I'll do as you say. Chu Qingyan was about to get up and ask someone to prepare a brush, ink, paper, and inkstone for her when he stopped her. You're not well. I'll write for you. She knew that De Bing did not want her to tire herself out. Otherwise, how tiring could it be to write a letter? But since he had already asked, how could she refuse his good intentions? She nodded. This was how Higashio Motetsu received the letter. The journey was hectic, so Xiaoho had people take them to rest. After settling them down, he met with his second brother. He looked at him up and down, as if it was the first time he saw him. Xiao Yao felt uncomfortable being stared at. He crossed his arms and glared at him. Impudent. Why are you looking at me like that? Xiaoho thought that if the etiquette officer was here, he would be the one being impudent. Seeing that his third brother did not answer, Xiao Yao thought of something. He opened his folding fan and said with a smile, Could it be that you think that your second brother is becoming more and more outstanding? That my limelight has overshadowed yours? Xiaoho laughed. I haven't seen you for a long time. Your skin is getting thicker and thicker. Hearing his emphasis on the last few words, Xiaoho reacted. Good Lord, he actually said that he was thick-skinned. Forget it. He was a magnanimous person. He would not bicker with his younger brother. By the way, why don't I see sister-in-law, your precious daughter, and my precious niece? Now that the Ice Beauty's illness had made progress, Xiao Yao's mind was able to divert a little. Only now did he notice that this time, he only saw his third brother. His sister-in-law and niece were nowhere to be seen. She just got pregnant and is resting in the hall. Little Ball is taking an afternoon nap with her. You will be able to see them at the banquet. Speaking of these two treasures, Xiaoho's eyes suddenly became gentle. Xiao heard this and felt envious. He blurted out, "When the Ice Beauty's body recovers, I also want to have a few children." After being alone for so many years, under the influence of his eldest brother and third brother, and with the Ice Beauty by his side, he also began to yearn for a family. "Didn't I hear you say that you would never stop to play in the mortal world? I didn't expect that after not seeing you for almost a year, Xiaoho didn't continue speaking, but he didn't need to guess to know what he was going to say next. Xiao put away his cynical attitude, closed the folding fan, and tapped the palm of his hand. The corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. "In the past, when I saw you and Imperial Brother rushing about for love, as a bystander, I couldn't understand. You're just a woman. Now that I'm deeply involved, I realize how laughable my thoughts were. Now, I'm no longer alone. A person's life is not as exciting as two people's." Unknowingly, he was deeply in love. "Okay, I won't talk so much with you. I'm going to boil the medicine for your second sister-in-law." After saying this, Xiao put his hands behind his back and strode towards the imperial kitchen. Xiaoho looked at his back as he walked away. He was no longer like a gust of wind. His footsteps were steady, and he would stop for people. He had a tie, and there were people he wanted to protect. This was the first time he saw his second brother like this, but he was also happy. Longzi will also become a good man of the Gu family. Chapter 1738. Chu Qingyin was already 5 or 6 months pregnant, while Pang Zhijing had just been diagnosed as pregnant. When Chu Qingyin and the others heard about this happy news, they couldn't help but be overjoyed. The two mothers-to-be sat together, holding hands and looking at each other with tears in their eyes. "Zhijing, I didn't expect to see you again after 3 or 4 years. How have you been? Have you recovered?" As soon as she saw her old friend, Chu Qingyin's eyes reddened a little. As she spoke, she sized her up. However, she didn't need her to answer. She already knew the answer when she saw her current appearance. Her eyes were sparkling, her cheeks were rosy and lustrous, and every piece of clothing and jewelry on her body was priceless. Most importantly, her face was shining with happiness. Chu Qingyin breathed a sigh of relief, followed by happiness for her. Pang Zhijing had been thinking about her ever since she was about to return. Now that she was in front of her, her eyes were filled with tears. She held Chu Qingyin's hand tightly and sobbed. "I'm fine. If you hadn't helped me back then, I'm afraid I would have become a lonely soul in the world. I don't even know how to thank you." Chu Qingyin patted her hand and said with a smile, "We're friends. It's my duty to do those things for you. Besides, you're my sister-in-law now. We're family, so there's no need to be so polite." Although she said that, Pang Zhijing still remembered this life-saving grace properly in her heart. This wasn't just her life, but her family of 3's savior. As the two of them talked, Chu Qingyin noticed the round little girl standing beside Pang Zhijing. Her eyes instantly lit up. "This is Little Ball, right? She looks like Water Spirit. I was so busy talking that I forgot to introduce you. Come, Little Ball, say hello to your aunt." Pang Zhijing immediately called her daughter over and introduced her to the two of them. Little Ball had long been obediently listening to their conversation. She had long heard of this beautiful aunt. Back then, when she was in the Medicine Valley, Ani Chung and Uncle Ethereal had told her about her aunt. This aunt had spared no effort to save her mother. Just like what her mother had said, she was their family savior. Little Ball was smart early and understood these principles. She walked forward and looked up at this fairy-like aunt. She called out sweetly, "Aunt, I'm Little Ball." Chu Qingyin's heart almost melted when she saw the little girl. She reached out to hold the little ball's hand and looked at it carefully. "Zhijing, this child looks like you," she said lovingly to the little ball. "I heard that you knew how to take care of your mother when you were very young. You're very sensible. Aunt has a small gift for you." Jasper, who was behind her, took out a box that she had prepared beforehand. She opened it and placed it in front of her mistress. Chu Qingyan took out a string of beads and placed it in little ball's hand. This was made by Ant. Take it and play with it. Pang Zhijing looked at the beads. Although the pearls on them were small, they had a pink glow. They were rare pink pearls and were very precious. She was about to ask her daughter to decline when she heard Chu Qingyan say, "Zhijing, don't be so formal with me." With these words, she couldn't be polite anymore. She said to Little Ball, "Quickly, thank Ant." Little Ball really liked this ant who smiled like a peony flower. She immediately smiled. "Thank you, Ant. Courtesy demands reciprocity. Little Ball also has a gift for you." As she spoke, she solemnly placed her precious little jade pendant in Eldest Ant's hands. This was her gift of thanks to Eldest Ant for saving her family. Chu Qingyan's eyes reddened. This child was too sensible. If she hadn't gone through so much, how could she be so intelligent at such a young age? She raised her hand and stroked her head. She said lovingly, "Little Ball is such a good child." At this moment, someone outside announced, "The little heir has arrived." Pang Zhijing was pleasantly surprised. "It's that one from your family?" Chu Qingyan nodded with a smile. She turned around and saw Kong Kong walk in. She waved at him. "Come and meet your third aunt and little sister." Kong Kong had long known that he had a third aunt and little sister whom he hadn't met in a long time. Today, he was here to meet them. Moreover, he had been a child for so long and was surrounded by adults. Although he played with his grandfather and great-grandfather, they weren't playmates of the same age. He had always wanted to have a playmate, so the first thing he looked at was the child beside his mother. "Wow, little sister is so pretty. My nickname is Kong Kong, and my full name is Xiao Huichin." Kong Kong wasn't afraid at all. Instead, he greeted them naturally and gracefully. "Hello, little brother Kong. My nickname is Little Ball, and my full name is Xiao Yuhan. Nice to meet you." When Kong Kong walked over, Little Ball's gaze fell on him. She found this little brother really cute. He looked as pretty as Ant when he smiled. She quickly fell in love with this little brother. Due to their blood relationship, she felt very close to him. Indeed, this was an era where appearances were important. The siblings' first meeting was very harmonious and smooth. Pang Zhijing took a look at the little doll and liked him very much. After he called her third aunt, her eyes were filled with the cute little doll. "Kong Kong is so cute. I really want to hold him in my arms and dote on him. It's a pity that I haven't been pregnant for 3 months, so I can't hold him." Hearing the pity in her words, Chu Qingyan chuckled. "There will be plenty of time in the future. For now, your health is the most important thing." At this time, Little Ball and Kong Kong had already run to the side to play. Kong Kong took out his treasured toy and handed it to Little Ball. "Little sister, this is a bamboo dragonfly. You can turn it in your palm and it will fly." Little Ball also immediately took out the food he had prepared. "Little brother Kong, this is corn candy. Eat it. If you like it, I'll keep one for you in the future." Kong Kong held the candy and sighed in his heart. It's so good to have a big sister. Little Ball also sighed as he played with the bamboo dragonfly. It's so good to have a little brother. At this time, Kong Kong patted Little Ball's shoulder like an adult. "Little sister, I'll protect you in the future. I won't let you be bullied." Little Ball smiled and nodded heavily. "I won't let anyone bully your little brother Kong either. In the future, when mother and eldest aunt give birth to younger siblings, we'll protect them together. It's a promise. It's a promise." The two little hands hooked together and said in a childish voice, "Pinky swear. You can't change your mind for 100 years. Thus, the crazy sister protecting demon and the crazy brother protecting demon were born from this day onwards. At that time, I kept trying to persuade him. I thought that in the end, they would still fight each other. I didn't expect that when I came back, they had already buried the hatchet and became good brothers." Pang Zhijing sighed. Chu Qingyan curved her lips into a smile. "It's better to say that you changed third brother. That's why there was a final turn for the better. But it's also because the fate between the two brothers hasn't ended yet." Chu Qingyan and Pang Zhijing saw the two little babies playing together happily. They both stroked their bellies and couldn't help but smile at each other. Blood relations would continue in the next generation. Chapter 1739. Divine Dr. Shun prescribed some medicine that could better suppress the poison in Feng Ling's body. Other than being unable to see, he was no different from a normal person. After Water Spirit sent Feng Ling back to his room, she sat on the bed and looked at him quietly. Although Feng Ling couldn't see, his many years of martial arts training made him very sensitive. He always knew that she was looking at him. After a while, he couldn't stand her quiet and direct gaze. "What are you thinking about?" This was the first time he took the initiative to talk to her after so many days. Water Spirit's eyes were filled with surprise. Her voice was slightly bitter. "I thought I wouldn't be able to wait for you to speak today." Hearing her sobbing voice, Feng Ling recalled his coldness these days. His heart was filled with pain. He had always treasured the lady in his heart and never allowed anyone to bully her. In the end, he was the one who hurt her the most. He couldn't forgive himself, but he couldn't do anything. He hated himself for being so useless. "Feng Ling, I know what you're thinking about. Can you calm down and listen to me?" Shui Ling looked at Yang Kai's tightly pursed lips and couldn't help feeling a pang of pain in her heart. In the past, the leader of swift, fierce cavalry had been so full of vigor, but now he was suffering so much. He clearly loved her, but he was forcing himself to stay away from her. A man of iron would rather die alone than implicate her. Just how deep was his love? She always knew. Feng Ling was stunned. Then he slowly nodded. "I'm listening." Water Spirit took a deep breath and said what she wanted to say. "You've done so much these days because you want me to leave you. You don't want to be a burden to me. But Feng Ling, life is so short. In the blink of an eye, it might pass. Look, back then, neither of us would have thought that when we met again, it was already 10 years later. I'm so afraid of this feeling. I don't ask for eternity. I just want us to not be separated while we're alive." "Feng Ling, from what Divine Dr. Shun said, your illness isn't incurable. Let's not give up on any hope. I'll give myself a chance, okay? Don't push me away again. Or else," when Feng Ling heard her words, his heart was already in turmoil. The last sentence made his eyebrows twitch. "What do you want to do?" "Ever since you disappeared, I have no intention of living. I have wanted to follow you for a long time. If you don't want me, then there is no meaning in living. I might as well cut off all troubles." Her resolute words rushed into his ears. Then he seemed to hear the sound of a knife leaving its scabbard. He immediately reached out and accurately grasped her wrist. With lingering fear, he said, "Silly girl, don't do anything stupid. You don't want me anymore. What's the point of me being all alone?" As soon as he finished speaking, he felt something hit the back of his hand. It was scalding tears. He closed his eyes and finally pulled her into his arms. He said fiercely, "Of all the things you can threaten me with, you're actually using your own life to threaten me. This is too much. If I don't do this, will you compromise?" Little Princess Consort's trick was really effective. Water Spirit's lips curled. If it wasn't for the fact that Feng Ling couldn't see anything, he would be able to guess what she was thinking. "I don't care. If you don't agree, I'll just find a place to hang myself." "Who said I don't want you?" The first sentence was filled with anger, but the last sentence was filled with deep love. "How could I bear to let you go?" Then in the future, don't say those words. My heart will hurt. All right. The two tightly hugged each other as if they wanted to merge into each other's body. Like this, there would be no separation and no separation. Guo Ling listened for a while and rubbed his nose. There was a smile on his lips. Little Princess Consort was still the best, thinking of fighting poison with poison. It seemed like he didn't need to stay here to help anymore. Water Spirit could take care of it by herself. So he walked forward with large steps in a good mood. He saw a beautiful figure from the corner of his eyes. His eyes lit up, and he immediately chased after her. "Jasper, where are you going? Do you still have that pastry you gave me last time? It's too delicious. I can't forget that taste." Baiyu looked at the figure running over from afar and rubbed her forehead. "This noisy fellow is here again." Tao Tao and Higashio Motetsu appeared in Jing City when the peach blossoms were all over the branches. When the two appeared, they were taken to the Imperial Palace by Xiao Lai, who had been waiting for them. When old friends met, it was natural for them to catch up. However, due to the special circumstances, Chu Qingyan greeted them and asked about their journey. She had wanted to ask about the progress between her and Dong Ting, but she remembered that Feng Ling and Gong Sunqiu's illnesses could not be delayed. Thus, she put that aside and brought Tao Tao to Feng Ling's room first. Tao Tao knew that a life was at stake. When she saw Feng Ling lying on the bed, she went to check his pulse without another word. Water Spirit and the others all looked at her, paying attention to the changes in her expression. They didn't even miss the changes in her eyes, afraid that she would say that she couldn't cure him. On the way here, Cheng Yinluo had described Feng Ling's illness, so Tao Tao already had a rough idea. Now that she checked Feng Ling's pulse and eyes, she had a rough idea. She withdrew her hand. Water Spirit couldn't wait to walk in front of her and asked anxiously, "Miss Tao, Feng Ling's illness, are you sure you can cure him?" Tao Tao looked at Water Spirit and Feng Ling's tightly clasped hands and understood. She smiled deeply and didn't leave them hanging. Although it's troublesome to cure this illness, it's not a problem for me. It's just that someone might have to sacrifice. When she heard that Feng Ling's illness could be cured, her anxious heart finally settled down. She quickly nodded. "Thank you, Miss Tao." Then she hugged the person on the bed ecstatically. "Feng Ling, did you hear that? Your illness can be cured." Feng Ling hugged her back and was very happy. However, Water Spirit was too excited and didn't pay attention to Tao Tao's last sentence. But he did. Sacrifice? What sacrifice? Just as he was about to raise his head and ask the girl, he heard the footsteps of a group of people walking away. Forget it. Let's take it one step at a time. The group of people left the room. Higashio Motetsu walked to Tao Tao and wanted to hold her hand, but she shook it off. He wasn't angry and asked with a smile, "Are you tired? Do you want to rest for a while and continue after dinner?" Tao Tao didn't even look at him and said directly to Cheng Yinluo, "Strike while the iron is hot. Take me to see the other patient." Cheng Yinluo looked at the deflated Higashio Motetsu and bowed with a smile. "This way, please." Chu Qingyin stood at the side and watched the whole process. When Tao Tao and the others walked away, she teased in amusement, "Still not done?" Higashio Motetsu rubbed his nose and sighed softly. "Who asked you to come out and kill me? My heart is sad. No one knows my sorrow." Chu Qingyin was amused and winked at him. "The revolution hasn't succeeded yet. Comrade, you still have to work hard." Higashio Motetsu's face fell. His wife was so hard to get. Chapter 1740. At this time, in Gongsun Shue's room, Tao Tao first observed her expression before taking her pulse. She had already noticed that there was something wrong with Gongsun Shue's body. She originally wanted to help her for Qingyin's sake, but that day when the assassin came, Gongsun Shue's identity was exposed. She thought that Gongsun Shui was Qingyin's enemy, so she didn't mention it again. She didn't expect that after so many twists and turns, this person still ended up in her hands. If I'm not wrong, you've been infected with a ring goo. This kind of goo likes to hide in the human body and won't kill immediately. The incubation period is usually 20 years, and it survives by eroding the human body. Now that the ring goo has matured, as the host, Miss Gongsun Shue's body is exhausted. In less than a month, the ring goo will act up. Once it acts up, the host will quickly decline, and within 2 hours, her blood will dry up and she will die. Tao Tao withdrew her hand and explained to everyone. "Then do you have a way?" Xiao stared at her, as if looking at a life-saving straw. Although the others didn't speak, they also looked at Tao Tao expectantly. Tao Tao crossed her arms and raised a confident smile. "My title of little, which is not undeserved. I don't care about these evil things at all." Xiao was overjoyed. At this time, he saw Tao Tao's eyes fall on him. She slightly raised her chin and said, "Get ready. Tomorrow I'll draw the goo to expel the poison." Xiao quickly nodded. "If you need anything, just tell me." After that, he walked to the bedside, squatted down, and stroked Gongsun Shue's pale face. His eyes were full of excitement and joy. "Ice Beauty, I can take you to see thousands of rivers and mountains in the future." Tao Tao looked at the two people cuddling together and sighed. "Another pair of idiots." After leaving the room, She looked around and didn't see the person who usually clung to her. She thought, where did this person go? Tao Tao glanced at Chu Qingyan, who was waiting for her at the door, and immediately strode over. Why are you here? Didn't your big ice cube watch you? It's been so many months. You should take care of the baby and don't run around. Before Chu Qingyan could say anything, she didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Proper walking is good for the baby. You're a doctor. Why are you more nervous than a layman like me? I'm concerned about you. Tao stuck out her tongue, then took over Jasper's position and walked forward. I know you care about me. I appreciate it. Chu Qingyan patted the back of her hand and asked, where did you go the last time you left North Korea? Why isn't there any news? S's sake of the devils is the devils the devils is ants this. Tao's is the yes seeing this. Tao Tao giggled. You didn't expect it, did you? He can do this for others. As she spoke, there was a trace of sweetness in her expression. I thought I would never see him turn back to me in this lifetime. Sincerity can move metal and stone. Tao Tao, I'm happy for you, but Chu Qingyan's eyes turned and she smiled slyly. Do you still not plan on forgiving him? Tao Tao tilted her head and smiled mischievously. That still depends on his performance. I have the looks and medical skills. The Tao family has a daughter that thousands of families want. How can I let him have it so easily? Chu Qingyan pinched her nose and said with a smile, Good. You have ambition. Tao nodded seriously. Of course. The two walked as they chatted about what had happened in the past half year. When they reached the entrance of a courtyard, they saw a beautiful figure waiting there. Greetings to little princess consort. Water Spirit bowed towards Chu Qingyan and then bowed towards Tao Tao. Miss Tao. Chu Qingyan said, What are you waiting here for? This subordinate wants to find Miss Tao to ask about Feng Ling's treatment, Water Spirit replied. Chu Qingyan nodded. At this time, Xiao Su coincidentally sent people to find her. She left two people behind and left first. After they left, Shui Ling turned to Tao Tao in front of her. Although she wasn't very old, Shui Ling didn't dare treat her lightly, so she asked in a sincere tone, Today, Sister Tao said that to cure Feng Ling's illness, there needs to be a sacrifice. May I ask what kind of sacrifice Sister Tao is referring to? Feng Ling thought that she did not notice, but how could she not notice this? She did not dare to be negligent about his illness at all. Tao Tao looked at her with a troubled expression. Water Spirit saw this and immediately said, Miss Tao, please speak. I can bear it. Listening to her words, Tao Tao told her the truth. Young Master Feng Ling's illness isn't difficult to cure. His blood is filled with highly toxic toxins, so as long as we release his blood and inject new blood into him, the toxins in his body can be cleansed. This is our Devil Valley's unique blood replacement technique, but the blood used must be from a living person, otherwise it won't have any effect. Sister Shui Ling, do you understand what I mean? Water Spirit stilled, but she did not hesitate and said directly, Take my blood. Tao Tao narrowed her eyes. Are you sure? Water Spirit nodded heavily. I'm sure. All right, the blood exchange will be carried out tomorrow. Rest well today, Tao Tao instructed. Water Spirit smiled and nodded. Just as Tao Tao was about to turn, she called out to her. Is there anything else? Tao Tao was puzzled. Water Spirit said in a sincere tone, Please don't tell him. If he knew that it was a life for a life, he probably would not agree. Tao Tao raised her eyebrows and looked at her strangely. You don't think it's a life for a life, do you? Water Spirit was startled. Isn't it? Tao Tao chuckled. If that's the case, then why save him? Water Spirit was confused. Then? Tomorrow, we will exchange a part of the blood. After that, we will exchange it once every half a month. After 3 exchanges, he will be completely cured. After Tao Tao finished speaking, she winked at the astonished Water Spirit and said, I heard that you two have been separated for 10 years and finally reunited. How can I do something like breaking up a pair of lovebirds? So don't worry, I will not let you two be separated by life and death. Ming Yan's face was filled with gratitude. Miss Tao, if Feng Ling can be cured, we will never forget it. No need. This is what I owe your little princess. Go and rest well. There's a big battle tomorrow. Tao Tao rubbed her nose a little embarrassedly. She had studied medicine for so many years and mostly teased people. She rarely took the initiative to save people. She was not used to being grateful to others. Water Spirit thanked her again and again before turning to leave. I didn't expect my little demoness to be so kind. A teasing voice came from behind the rockery. Tao Tao restrained the expression on her face and rolled her eyes at the person. I didn't expect the palace master to like eavesdropping. A peerlessly handsome face flashed from behind the white jade. It was Higashio Motetsu without a doubt. He walked in front of her, his eyes innocent. I just happened to pass by. Seeing that you were so engrossed in your conversation, I didn't want to disturb you. Tao Tao rolled her eyes. I'll be damned if I believe you. Didn't you just say that you won't break up a pair of lovebirds? Is there a problem? She glanced at him. Higashio Motetsu said in all seriousness, Of course there is a problem. Isn't that what you're doing right now? Tao Tao was stunned. Who did I hit? Me and you. Tao Tao was instantly choked. This person was getting better and better at flirting. Higashio Motetsu took advantage of her daze to step forward and hug her. He said in a low voice, Tao Tao, let's make up. Chapter 1741. Time flew by, and half a year passed just like that. However, in this period of time, happy events happened one after another. Chu Qingyin gave birth to a pair of twins 4 months ago. The son's nickname was Pingyin, and the daughter's nickname was Ku Xian. Sima Jun gave birth to a daughter 3 months ago. Her nickname was Naughty. Ji Linyang was overjoyed. Pang Zhijing gave birth to a chubby boy a month ago. His nickname was Lucky. Lin Fengyi and Hua Xiao got married on the day of the peach blossoms. News came from North Korea that Xining was pregnant. Under Tao Tao's treatment, Feng Ling's blood was successfully changed. His eyes could see again, and his body had recovered. The Ringu and Gong Suinchua's body was drawn out. She was slowly recovering during her recuperation period. Witnessing the happiness of the people around her, Chu Qingyin felt that the past half a year was the happiest time she had spent in this world since she transmigrated. She sat in the courtyard of the King of England's residence. Beside her were 2 identical cradles. The children in the cradles were delicate and cute. Her eyes were as gentle as water. Although they were born a month early, these 2 babies were not full-term babies at all. In fact, they were becoming rounder and cuter as they grew. She gently rocked the cradles and softly sang a nursery rhyme. The entire courtyard was silent, and the servants walked quietly, afraid that they would disturb the 2 young masters. Right at this moment, a lithe figure appeared in front of Chu Qingyin. She raised the corner of her lips. What brings our big Miss Tao here? Tao Tao was wearing a light purple dress. A belt embroidered with lotus flowers hugged her slim waist. The light muslin fluttered in the wind, making her look graceful and beautiful. The northwest wind. Tao Tao sat down and supported her chin with her hand. She looked a little tired. What's going on? Chu Qingyin looked at her, amused. It's all because of that bastard. He said that if I don't agree, he'll cut off my rations. Now, there's not a single restaurant in the capital that dares to do business with me. I can't even eat a mouthful of rice. Wawa Qingyin, please eat. As she spoke, she pitifully rubbed her shriveled belly, her eyes brimming with tears. Chu Qingyin was slightly surprised. She didn't expect Dongting to do such a thing. However, Tao Tao didn't seem to be angry. Instead, he seemed to be enjoying it. Chu Qingyin took it as a couple's fun. She waved her hand and asked someone to bring in several plates of delicious snacks. Chu Qingyin laughed as she looked at the person who was wolfing down the food. Eat slowly. No one is going to snatch it from you. I'm afraid that he'll come after me if I'm not full yet, Tao Tao mumbled. Back then, I thought you would agree, Chu Qingyin said with a smile as she rocked the cradle. Tao Tao recalled that day, his gentle embrace and his gentle voice. She blushed and coughed lightly. Am I the kind of person who would be seduced by beauty? You're too shallow. Moreover, didn't you tell me back then that it's easy for a woman to chase a man, and it's impossible for a man to chase a woman? In any case, I have to let him know that I'm not that easy to chase. If he gets me too easily, He won't know how to cherish me. Chu Qingyin smiled and raised her hand to poke her forehead. You're such a mischievous spirit. Tao Tao chuckled and wiped away the pastry crumbs at the corner of her mouth. Then she stood up and clapped her hands. She touched the faces of the two jade dolls and said reluctantly, I have to go now. Otherwise, that bastard will come after me. I'll come to see the babies later. With that, she left like a gust of wind, just like how she came. Chu Qingyin retracted her gaze and looked at a corner with a smile. She's already gone. Why aren't you coming out? TSK, TSK, TSK. People say that pregnancy makes a woman stupid for 3 years. Why doesn't it work when it comes to you? As the pleasant voice fell, an incomparably devilish figure walked out from behind the parasol tree. Because our IQs are highly different. Higashio Motetsu shrugged. I'm here to see the two babies. I think you have an ulterior motive. Chu Qingyin rolled her eyes at him. Hey. If you don't expose me, we're still good friends. Higashio Motetsu said this, but his eyes were filled with an unconcerned smile. You heard Tao Tao's words just now. Tell me what you think. Seeing Chu Qingyin's disdainful expression that said, Why are you so stupid? You chased her for a year and still couldn't win her heart. Higashio Motetsu's mouth twitched, but he quickly recovered his usual confidence. What can I think? I'll just continue chasing her. I've let her down for 3 years. Anyway, I still have a long way to go, so I'll compensate her. I hope I can attend your wedding banquet in my lifetime. Chu Qingyin teased. Higashio Motetsu rolled his eyes, got up, and looked at the babies. He reached out and pinched their pink and tender cheeks, then turned and said, I'm going to chase that little heartless girl. I'll come to see you and the babies when I have time. With that, he disappeared like a gust of purple wind. Chu Qingyin tilted her head and laughed. The way these two people appeared and left the scene was becoming more and more similar. It seemed that the day of the wedding banquet was not far away. As she laughed, she felt that the aura in the air was a little different. Looking up, she saw the incomparably handsome figure leaning against the tree trunk. She didn't know how long he had been watching, but she burst into a flower-like smile. Are you done with your business? Xiao Su smiled and slowly walked toward her. Xian Mo's eyes were filled with her figure. And I came back to accompany you and the children. Xiao Su walked in front of her, leaned over, and raised his hand to touch her face. His eyes were warm and gentle as they swept over her face inch by inch. He wanted to see if she had treated him well when he was not around. Chu Qingyin's face heated up from his gaze. She was shy and amused. They had only been separated for a morning, but why did this person seem to have been separated for 3 months every time? However, she liked the fun between husband and wife. She rubbed against his palm and said angrily, You haven't looked at our babies since you came back. When the babies grow up, they will blame you for not loving them. Xiao Su raised his eyebrows at her words. In my heart, you are the only baby. Chu Qingyin's face heated up even more. How did this person become a moving love machine? Xiao Su chuckled as the heat on his fingertips rose. Why do you still blush so easily after so many years? Chu Qingyin immediately glared at him. Who was the one who caused this? Xiao Su chuckled. He got up and looked at the sleeping twins. His eyes were filled with love. He replaced his little wife's position and gently rocked the two cradles. Chu Qingyin sat beside him, propping up her chin as she looked at him. His eyes were filled with starlight, and all the light was restrained. Only when he was facing her and the children would his eyes be filled with gentleness. He was still the same person whose face was bright and clear, like the white snow on the mountains. However, that coldness had been replaced by warmth. She was fascinated by him. Sensing her gaze, he looked at her sideways. What's wrong? Big Ice Cube, I have a secret in my heart that I want to share with you. Do you want to hear it? It was time to tell him the secret of her birth. Xiao Su's lip curled up. What a coincidence. I also have something to tell you. Chapter 1742. Under the parasol tree. The two cradles were taken away, leaving only two figures cuddling together and the sound of flowing water. Big Ice Cube, This is my secret. My body belongs to this world, but my soul comes from another time and space. I know this sounds unbelievable, but it's true. She talked to herself. When she woke up in the dressing room, she became the 10-year-old girl from Mao Village. She didn't dare to look into his eyes, afraid that he would say that she had strange powers and was spouting nonsense. After all, these were like fairy tales to the ancient people. She had done a lot of mental preparation before she dared to tell him. However, how could the person she liked think that way? Xiao Su looked at the person who lowered her head and didn't dare to look at him. He couldn't help but hug her even more tightly. Then will you suddenly disappear like that in the future? What? Chu Qingyan looked up in confusion. What I mean is, you came here by accident. In the future, will you suddenly leave? Xiao Su looked in her eyes and slowly pulled back his arms as he asked seriously. Although he looked calm, how could she not see the worry and panic hidden under his calmness after being together for so many years? You believe what I said? Chu Qingyan widened her eyes. As long as you say it, I believe it. Actually, I've had some doubts for a long time. You grew up in Mao Village and are only 10 years old. No matter how smart you are, it's impossible for you to have an exquisite heart. He paused and said, You still haven't answered my question. Chu Qingyan was touched that he would believe her words. She looked at his persistent eyes and couldn't help but hug his neck and cling to his chest. I don't know if I will leave, but I promise that as long as I'm alive, I won't leave you and the child. Xiao Su hugged her tightly. As long as I'm alive, I won't let you leave. God let her come to his side and become his salvation. She was his, and no one could take her away. Yes, she nodded. The two of them hugged each other quietly for a while before Chu Qingyan remembered what he had just said. Didn't you say that you have something to tell me? She tilted her head and asked curiously. Xiao Su pecked her lips and smiled. Do you still remember where we first met? Chu Qingyan sank into her memories. It was in the courtyard of the Chu clan. That was the first time I saw you. You looked very unapproachable. I was scared to death by you. Xiao Su pinched her nose and smiled. I thought you were fearless, but you're wrong. That wasn't the first time we met. Chu Qingyan wanted to slap his hand away, but when she heard his words, she couldn't care less. She looked surprised. We've met before? Xiao Su nodded, his eyes sparkling. Do you still remember the purple-masked man you saved in Mao Village? Chu Qingyan widened her eyes. Xiao Su continued, eggplant, black firewood, scallion. When he said the first word, Chu Qingyan reacted. Her face was full of shock. So that person was you. After saying that, she clenched her fists and hit him a few times. She complained, Why didn't you say so earlier? I didn't expect us to meet so early. Also, why did you leave without saying goodbye at that time? He accepted all of her complaints. When she was tired from hitting him, Xiao Su held her hand and laughed softly. I didn't know that you would become my little fiancé in the future. The situation was urgent, so I had to leave first. I didn't expect to see you again in the capital. Looks like my father has discerning eyes. He recognized you at first sight when he returned to the capital. Chu Qingyan stroked her chin and sighed. Father-in-law is very smart. Xiao Su nodded. It was really surprising that he recognized him at first sight. Chu Qingyan was silent for a while, then hugged him tightly. Big Ice Cube, I'm so lucky. I have you, the babies, my best friends, and my parents by my side. I have no regrets in this life. Xiao Su stroked her hair, hugged her, and looked at the cloudy sky with a smile. You're the lucky one in my life. Another day, people from Jiangnan came. Jin Ling and Yang Xiaowan came to the King of England's residence, followed by boxes of account books. Back then, Chu Qingyan had started a business to leave a way out for her family's Big Ice Cube. After Big Ice Cube ascended the throne and she became empress, she handed over the business in her hands to Jin Ling and the others. Now, unknowingly, her business had opened all over the northern part of Jiangnan, in important cities and towns of various countries. It could be said that her wealth was comparable to that of a country. Chu Qingyan opened the latest account book, and her eyes were about to disappear from her smile. Her decision back then was really very wise. At this time, she closed the account book and looked at Jin Ling, who had removed his disguise and revealed his handsome face. Then, She looked at young Xiao, who was already a beautiful woman. She was even more satisfied. Back then, Big Ice Cube had already told her the reason why Jean Ling had disguised himself as a bearded uncle. Jean Ling was worried that he was too young and would be looked down upon for doing business. So he put an effort to disguise himself. In fact, he was only a teenager. Now that he had become a handsome young man, it was time to talk about marriage. This time, Jean Ling came to the capital, other than to report there was another matter, and that was to ask her for Yang Xiaowan. Yang Xiaowan was saved by her and was very dependent on her. Not only did she treat her as a benefactor, but she also treated her as a teacher and a friend. Now that Yang Xiaowan had broken ties with the Yang family, she was the only person she could trust. Chu Qingyan looked at the golden couple in front of her, rubbed her chin, and waved her hand. Approved. Jean Ling took Yang Xiaowan's hand and bowed to thank her. Chu Qingyan's eyes curved. There was another happy event this year. Master, His Majesty is preparing to hold the little prince's 1-month-old banquet tomorrow. Jasper stood beside her and reported. Chu Qingyan smiled and nodded. Got it. Go to the storeroom and pick a few gifts. Tomorrow, Lord and I will bring them together. And Kong hopped over and lay on her knee. He said innocently, Mother, baby also wants to see the new little brother. Chu Qingyan stroked his head and smiled lovingly. Okay, let's go tomorrow as a family. The new emperor did not advocate extravagance and waste, so this 1-month-old banquet was just a family banquet for family and friends. Chu Qingyan hugged little Lucky and teased him with Gong's son Shui. Children are so cute. After half a year of recuperation, Gong's son Shui's face was no longer so pale and had a bit of color. At this time, she looked at the child without blinking and smiled sincerely. Pang Zhijing came over and heard her words. She smiled and teased. When you're well, you can give birth to one yourself. Your one probably can't wait. Chu Qingyan nodded in agreement. Gong's son Shui's face was red from the teasing. Xiao Su sipped his tea and looked at the cozy room with a smile on his face. Xiao Ho retracted his gaze from his little rascal and looked at Xiao Yao with a smile that was not a smile. Second brother, let's discuss something. Xiao Yao felt a chill run down his spine. Tonight, he had a bad feeling lingering in his heart. Tonight wouldn't be a Hongmin banquet, right? Chapter 1743. Third brother, what do you want to discuss? Xiao Yao swallowed his saliva. He didn't know if he was overthinking it, but he felt that the person in front of him was smiling with ill intentions. Xiao Su held his teacup, his eyes deep as he watched from the sidelines. Xiao Ho smiled faintly. Second brother, don't be nervous. Fuck, you're making me even more nervous. Xiao Ho continued. I heard that my future second sister-in-law's body hasn't fully recovered yet. Although he was vigilant, when he heard about the ice beauty, Xiao Yao couldn't help but interject. That's right. Although Miss Tao's medical skills are brilliant and managed to draw out the goo poison, because it was brought out from the mother's womb, the damage to her body is too heavy. It will take at least 1.5 years to nurse her body back to health. Speaking until here, Xiao Yao gritted his teeth. If he knew about this earlier, he would have turned Su Yu into ashes. Xiao Ho already knew about this matter, but he threw out a brick to attract more jade. Then she should need a lot of good herbs to nurse her body back to health, right? Xiao Yao sighed, that's right. Some herbs are too hard to find, like the shepherd's purse grass last month. I had to search all over Jiangnan to find it, and speaking of herbs, Xiao Yao forgot about his precautions and started to complain incessantly. If it wasn't for the fact that these herbs were too hard to find, his ice beauty would be able to recover even faster. Xiao Ho acted as if he had experienced it before. That's right. Back then, in order to nurse Jing's body back to health, I also spent a lot of effort. The feeling of being in the same boat made Xiao Yao pat his third brother's shoulder. It's been hard on you. Xiao Ho watched as his prey walked into his trap step by step. The corner of his mouth slowly rose. Back then, I was also very anxious like you, but eldest brother pointed out a bright path for me. What bright path? Third brother, quickly tell me. Xiao Yao's interest was immediately piqued. Not far away, Xiao Su looked at the situation and shook his head with a chuckle. History was about to repeat itself. Second brother, you also know that my favorite thing to do in my early years was to collect medicinal herbs. Now that I'm on the throne, other than money, the national treasury is filled with rare medicinal herbs. Hearing his third brother's words, although Xiao Yao was excited, his intelligence was still online. He looked at the person in front of him suspiciously. So, he didn't believe that his third brother had said so much just to hand over the medicine storehouse to him. I have the herbs you want here, but there is no free lunch in this world, Xiao Ho said with a smile. Third brother, why do I feel like you're like a wolf trying to coax a child? Third brother's medicine storehouse contained almost all the rare flowers and herbs in the world, which made him very excited. Although he felt that there was already a trap in front of him, he couldn't help but ask, "What exactly do you want to discuss with me? Or should I say, what are you up to?" He was a carefree king who had nothing to do at home. It seemed like there was nothing for his younger brother to rob him of. Xiao Ho finally revealed a sly smile. Our Xiao family is like brothers. Don't be so formal. I just want to give you a medicine storehouse. Xiao Yao didn't have time to be happy before he heard him say again, along with Xishuan's great country. Xiao Yao's mouth twitched. Was he still sleepy and confused? However, reality was cruel. Xiao Ho mercilessly shattered his self-deceiving hints. How about it? You're giving me a gift. Isn't your younger brother very good? I also feel that there is no other brother in the world who is as kind-hearted and generous as me. Heavens, kind-hearted my ass. Generous my ass. Xiao Yao gritted his teeth in his heart. When he was tricked by his eldest brother, he didn't dare to resist. Now he was tricking him. Kind people are always bullied. Xiao Ho didn't give him a chance to speak and continued. Since you're not saying anything, I'll take it that you agree. I've already written the abdication edict. You can ascend the throne tomorrow. After saying that, Xiao Ho stroked his chin and evaluated himself. I'm almost moved by my own righteousness. After saying that, he turned and left, not giving Xiao Yao a chance to regret. Pang Zhijing felt a pair of hands around her waist. She laughed and said, "What good thing happened?" Although she couldn't see his expression, she could feel the joy exuding from his body, even with her eyes closed. "Wife, I've thrown the hot potato away. I'll take you wherever you want to go." Xiao Ho sniffed the fragrance in her hair and smiled uncomfortably. On the other side, Xiao Yao hugged his ice beauty and cried, "Wife, I've been tricked. I have to give up land and pay compensation. From now on, I've lost my freedom. What should I do?" Gongsun Shui frowned. "Speak, human." "Oh." Xiao Yao released his hands and tidied his clothes. He smiled widely. "Wife, from tomorrow onwards, I'm the emperor and you're the empress. Are you happy?" Gongsun Shui glared at him coldly. Scram! Xiao Yao's face fell, and he continued to hug his ice beauty. "I don't want to either. Third brother is too cunning. He actually used the medicine storehouse to threaten me. What can I do? Don't abandon me. Otherwise, I'll be all alone." Gongsun Shui face-bombed. Didn't she say that she would be wherever he was? What was there to worry about? She really didn't want to bother with this fool. Under the long corridor of the palace, the lights were bright and the ground was full of shadows. The shadows of the trees were mixed with the shadows of birds flying past. The bustling and noisy hall was left in the hall. It was quiet outside, but one could vaguely hear wine and music inside. Xiao Su stood under the lantern for a while. Then, he heard footsteps approaching. "You're here," he said indifferently. Xiao Ho walked to a pillar not far from him. He rolled up his sleeves and casually leaned against it. He didn't have the majesty of an emperor at all. "I have a question." "Ask away." "Why didn't you stop me from giving the empire to second brother?" Actually, when he saw him, he already had the answer in his heart. But since he had already come out, he might as well ask. The dark glazed light reflected in those black eyes. The owner of those eyes raised his eyebrows and smiled faintly. "Haven't you already guessed it?" Xiao Ho rubbed his nose and laughed. "If second brother knew that you wanted to give the empire to him long ago, and that I was only temporarily managing it for a few years, he would probably vomit blood." Xiao Su imagined it and couldn't help but laugh. He had spent too many years on the battlefield. If the country was in a state of war, he would be able to shoulder the burden. But now was a time of peace. He was suitable for conquering the empire, but not for guarding it. On the other hand, third brother was extremely intelligent, resourceful, and skilled in politics. If it was before Pang Zhijing's appearance, he would be extremely suitable to be a wise ruler. Unfortunately, with a beauty by his side now, he no longer had such thoughts. Second younger brother, on the other hand, spent most of his time among the common people. He was able to chat and laugh with hundreds of officials and mix with people from all walks of life. He was broad-minded and possessed a benevolent heart. No one understood the people's livelihood better than him. So, he was the most suitable person to sit on the throne. He will be a virtuous emperor, Xiao Su said. Xiao didn't comment. Before he left, he asked, "When are you leaving?" "Tomorrow." "Okay, see you tomorrow." The next day, the Sichuan Empire, which had been peaceful for a few years, was stirred up again. The reason was that they had a new emperor. The officials thought, "My heart is bitter, but I won't say it." Xiao Yao clenched the news sent by the spy and gritted his teeth. Bastards, all of them ran away. After the morning court, Xiao Yao hugged Ice Beauty and cried, "Wife, those heartless people have all left. I only have you left. Ah, Ice Beauty, go and read the memorials." Chapter 1744. A month ago, Yin Zhan and his wife came to Lan Manor together with Jing Huai and her husband, who were warmly welcomed by Sima Jun and Ji Linyang. However, for Chu Qingyin, Pang Zhijing, and Sima Jun, this meeting was earth-shattering. It started because of the hot spring incident. It was unknown who blurted it out, but it caused the three of them to start talking to each other one after another. Chu Qingyin asked, "Have you been to the 2008 Olympics?" Pang Zhijing said, "I was there too. I even went to cheer for the Olympic athletes." Sima Jun said, "It's a pity that I didn't see the 2016 Olympics." After they finished talking about the modern era, the three of them were silent for a while, and then they hugged each other tacitly. "We're all in the same boat. Why do we have to know each other when we meet? I thought I was the only one who transmigrated." Sima Jun coughed and looked at Chu Qingyin guiltily. "Actually, I recognized you a long time ago. However, I saw that you were doing well, and that you had someone by your side. I didn't want to acknowledge you, afraid that I would disturb your life." Chu Qingyin held her hand and smiled. "It's okay. It's good that we acknowledge each other now." Pang Zhijing leaned against the edge of the pool and looked at the two of them. She rolled her eyes and said, "Do you think there are other transmigrators besides us?" Sima Jun brushed her wet hair. "It's hard to say. After all, transmigrating isn't a rare thing these days." Chu Qingyin nodded. "There's no threshold for transmigrating now. There are all kinds of people, and it's hard to tell if they're good or bad. Let's not reveal our identities." Pang Zhijing agreed. "By the way, have you thought about why we transmigrated here?" Sima Jun raised her eyebrows and smiled. "It must be so that I can show off in this alternate world." Chu Qingyin tilted her head. "To find happiness. If Xiao Su was here, the answer would be, she's here to save me." Pang Zhijing rested her chin on her hand and smiled. "Then I should be here to save the world. Why am I so noble?" Ha! Thinking back to their experiences over the past few years and the current peace and prosperity, the three of them couldn't help but smile. The hot spring next door was not as lively as theirs. On the contrary, it was a little cold. At this moment, hearing their unrestrained laughter and high spirits, the three handsome men raised their eyebrows at the same time. What's so funny? Soon, they knew the reason. This was because their wives were no longer circling around them. Instead, they had gathered together and were fiddling with something mysteriously. Finally, one day, Xiao Su and the other two couldn't take it anymore and were prepared to capture them. He walked to the door and heard voices inside. Chu Qingyin said, "I remember that I transmigrated here after taking a nap. Sleeping probably won't work." Pang Zhijing said something, and Sima Jun said, "I fell into the water and was sucked here by the whirlpool. Maybe I can go back if I jump into the water again." Xiao Su, Xiao Ho, and Ji Linyang's faces were extremely dark. They already knew about their wives' backgrounds. Now that they heard them discussing how to go back, their hearts were in turmoil. The three of them looked at each other and pushed the door open to capture them. Then, the three of them had a tacit understanding and didn't let the three women be alone together. As a result, every time the three of them became 6 people, they were very sad. Who told these stinky men to misunderstand them and not listen to their explanations? Even if they had evil intentions, they didn't have the guts. They couldn't go back, and they weren't even allowed to discuss it. Freedom of speech now. Who said that only women and villains were hard to raise in this world? It was clearly the stingy ones. Men were hard to raise. The cavalry masters of the fierce cavalry all found happiness and had a positive outcome with the people they loved. Jin Ling and Yang Xiao Huan were husband and wife. They guarded Jiangnan and other businesses for their little princess consort. Mu Ling used the wooden carving in his hand to obtain a beauty's heart. From then on, he lived a happy and peaceful life. After Feng Ling's body recovered, he took charge of the fierce cavalry again. After marrying Water Spirit, they had a son and a daughter. It could be said that he had a great harvest in his career and love. Hu Ling and Jasper fell in love after a long time and had a positive outcome. Ethereal and Cheng Yanluo were a pair of enemies. After going through so many hardships, they wouldn't be separated so easily. They gave birth to one future little divine doctor after another. When everyone was happy, there was only one person who was often alone and silent to the moon. That was Turin. Many people wanted to introduce him to someone, but he rejected them all. He already had someone in his heart. He knew that the beauty was gone, and he couldn't wait anymore. He stubbornly waited. There was no chance in this life, but there was still the next life. That woman with bright eyes, he couldn't forget her no matter what. The flowing water fell, and the spring left. Year after year, day after day, the heavens on earth. In the blink of an eye, 10 years had passed. The Sichuan Imperial Palace became lively again. In the Imperial Garden, there were more than a dozen children sitting cross-legged. There were boys and girls, and they were all dressed differently. However, they all had one thing in common, which was that they were all handsome and pretty. Although they were still young, it was easy to predict that in a few years' time, this group of beautiful children would grow up to become adults. When they went out, they would bring disaster to the world. The one wearing a black brocade robe was Xiao Huichen. He was the eldest son of Xiao Su and Chu Qingyan. He was dressed in noble clothes, like a smaller version of Xiao Su. On his left sat his twin brothers and sisters. One was called Xiao Huixing, and the other was called Xiao Huiyue. On his right sat his youngest brother Xiao Huiyan. Sitting across from Xiao Huichan was Xiao Yuhan. On her left sat her 2 younger brothers. One was called Xiao Yurong, and the other was called Xiao Yumu. On the west sat Xiao Yao's eldest son, Xiao Ziyan. He was dressed in a bright yellow imperial robe. His small face was smiling like his father. Oh yes, 3 years ago, his father gave up the throne with him. At a young age, he had to drag the civil and military officials to live in a well-off society. He often lamented to the moon and felt sorry for himself. At this time, Xiao Ziyan had 3 younger brothers and sisters sitting in a row. They were the second brother Xiao Zijuan, the third sister Xiao Zifu, and the fourth sister Xiao Zirong. Originally, the imperial palace was not so lively except for the new year. However, because the retired emperor was going to celebrate his 80th birthday, everyone came back from thousands of miles away. Xiao Ziyun turned the dice in his hand and glanced at the people present. Old rules. 1 game to decide the winner. Xiao Huichun crossed his shoulders and raised his eyebrows. Although he didn't want to play this kind of game with his younger brother, he had already promised before. It was not good to go back on his word. He looked at his 2 younger brothers sitting beside him and reluctantly nodded. Xiao Huixing and Xiao Huiyun saw that their eldest brother had agreed and also nodded. Xiao Ziyan looked at the other 2. Xiao Yurong and Xiao Yumu looked at each other and nodded. Well, whoever shakes out a small point loses. Xiao Ziyun smiled maliciously. Everyone nodded. Xiao Yuhan and the other younger sisters rolled their eyes. Last year, they competed in archery. Last year, they competed in rock, paper, scissors. This year, they played dice. They were really getting worse and worse. However, they were still very curious about who would win this year. Half an hour later, Xiao Yimu raised his hand to cover his face. Damn, how could he be so unlucky? He had shaken out 3 dots. Xiao Huichan stood up and left with his 3 younger brothers and sisters. Xiao Yuhan shook his head angrily. Xiao Ziyan laughed, took off his dragon robe and dragon crown, and put it beside Xiao Yimu. He patted him on the shoulder like an old man. In the future, the Sichuan Empire will be handed over to you. It's a long road and a long way to go. After that, Xiao Ziyan and his 3 younger brothers and sisters looked up to the sky and laughed and left. Xiao Yuron looked at her younger brother with some schadenfreude. I seem to have seen Brother Ziyan cheat. Xiao Yimu hugged the dragon robe and looked in the direction where there was no smoke. He gritted his teeth. Xiao, Zi, Yin, you, this. You, soul, light. And this kind of game will be played every few years, and there were all kinds of tricks. You've taken a fancy to my sword? Simple. You'll be the emperor for me. Not to mention this sword. I'll give you the entire armory. Oh, you owe my family money? Simple. You'll be in charge of the country for me, and the debt will be written off. And the so-called sword, the debt, how many people were planning it? Year after year, it was no longer strange to see a battle of wits and bravery. So the daily life of the royal brothers was like this. When others met, they would usually ask, "Have you eaten?" They would ask, "Have you become the emperor this year?" And as the civil and military officials of this generation of Sichuan Empire, they were the most miserable officials in history. They were used to seeing the person on the dragon throne look different every time they went to court. It could be said that the officials were made of iron and the emperor was flowing water. So much so that no one dared to put their daughter into the harem, for fear that she would become the Grand Imperial Concubine or Grand Imperial Concubine. The entire imperial court was rarely harmonious, because every new emperor had different methods, which made the officials suffer. You might not believe it, but I've already been a senior official for 4 dynasties. You might not believe it, but I've already been a senior official for 6 dynasties. Oh, it seemed that being a senior official for a few dynasties was not worth much anymore. They had better do their jobs properly. Chapter 1745. If we had never met, where would I be? The phone rang again and again, tirelessly thinking about it. A smooth and delicate arm reached out from under the blanket, picked up the phone, and shrank back in. A few minutes later, the blanket was suddenly lifted. A pure and beautiful girl rubbed her hair and sat up. Yes, I'm Chu Yan. You said the photo was done, right? Okay, I'll go get it in the afternoon. Chu Yan put down her phone and stretched. She happened to be facing the full-body mirror on the wall, her face lacking sleep. Ever since she slept in the photo studio last week, she felt as if she had lived a lifetime. She had a very long dream, but when she thought about it carefully, she couldn't remember it. She patted her face, then got out of bed, put on her shoes, and walked to the wardrobe. She had taken her parents to take a set of artistic photos, and now the shop owner had asked her to go over and get the photos. Fortunately, she was already a senior and had plenty of time. After changing her clothes, she walked to the door and went back to her room to get the resume on the table. She had an interview this afternoon, which happened to be 2 streets away from the photo studio. She went there in advance to prepare. She quickly got the photo. Chu Yin was very satisfied when she saw herself wearing ancient clothes. Even the shop assistant praised her for being born to wear such clothes. She touched her face. If she lived in ancient times, what kind of life would she have had? She glanced at the time on her watch and immediately put away her things. She said goodbye to the shop assistant and walked towards the interview location. The company she was going to interview this time was the city's leading design company, and also the nationally famous Xiao Group's golden signboard. It was said that the person in charge of it was the eldest son of the Xiao family, a famous golden bachelor. It was said that he was handsome and rich, and he had 7 outstanding assistants under him. They were called Wind Spirit, Gold Spirit, Wood Spirit, Water Spirit, Fire Spirit, Turin, and Ethereal. Chu Yin rarely paid attention to such gossip. She just felt that the name of this assistant was so strange that it felt like an ancient assassin. The interview was on the 12th floor. Chuyin explained her identity to the security guard and quickly walked towards the elevator door. Because she received a text message at the last minute, the interview time was half an hour earlier. Seeing that she was about to be late, Chuyin was miserable and could only run over with her bag. Coincidentally, a group of people was walking over from the side. She didn't notice them and bumped into the leader of the group. The document in her hand fell to the ground with a pa sound. Chuyin was unable to stand steadily, and when she thought that she would end up in the same state as the document, her wrist was tightly gripped by someone. That scorching heat penetrated her skin and reached her heart. She couldn't help but be dumbfounded, and at this moment, she was also pulled back by the other party. She came back to her senses and wanted to thank him after she steadied herself. But when she looked up, she was stunned. The man in front of him had handsome brows and slender eyes. He looked around with a natural elegance and a cold temperament. His eyes were like the richest wine in the world. Just a glance was enough to make one intoxicated. She couldn't find words to describe the man in front of her. His appearance was enough to turn all living things upside down. In her lifetime, she had actually been mesmerized by a strange man. Xiao looked at the girl in front of him. Her facial features were exquisite, her eyebrows were bright, and her cheeks were healthy pink. She was wearing a simple suit, but it outlined her exquisite figure. Her black hair was tied up high, and she looked bright and lively. His gaze was locked on her. "Have I seen you somewhere before?" In his dreams at night, that frown and smile always lingered in front of his eyes. In the interview office on the 12th floor, Turin looked at his watch and couldn't help but feel strange. Didn't the boss say that he was already downstairs? Why wasn't he here yet? He thought for a moment and said to the two interviewers beside him, "Feng Ling, Hualing, let's start first. We'll report to the boss when he arrives." The company was recruiting elites this time, which was why they were mobilized. Even the boss was personally participating, so there couldn't be any mistakes. Feng Ling and Hualing didn't have any objections, so Turin signaled to his subordinates. Soon, an interviewer pushed the door open and came in. "Hello, 3 interviewers. My name is Huang." This voice that sounded like a yellow oriole crashed into Turin's ears. He couldn't help but look up, and a girl with bright eyes barged into his eyes. "If I can't wait for you in this life, I'll wait for the next life. Finally, I've waited for you. That you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.